Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. We may make updates in the future which we will release in our Discord channels, so be on the lookout for that. If we put out any updates, we will put out some tutorial videos as well. Guys, enjoy the video and hopefully you learned something today. So today we're going to go over the confirmation toolkit. So we're going to go over our indicators and how they work and what we're expecting out of them. So I'm going to make it really easy, guys. I'm going to pull up the chart and we're going to go over some indicators on each one of these charts. And I'm going to go over GOVX and SING because these were both moving yesterday, so it will make the most sense to everyone. But if it does get out of hand or whatever, if I start to go off and ramble a little bit, then I will try to reel it back in. I've got a list of topics I want to cover. So I've been getting approached by our newer traders with a lot of questions, which is absolutely fine, but I want to collectively answer these questions rather than individually, and that's because we do spend a lot of time building the code and nitpicking at that code and adjusting. We spend a lot of time making YouTube videos, tutorials, things like that, so we want to make sure that we're answering everyone collectively instead of individually. We do have private lessons available, so if you're not getting a question answered that you maybe need a little bit more assistance, we do have private lessons, so feel free to reach out to that, and we'll be happy to work with you. But we do want to focus on getting the tutorials out. We want to focus on all the questions we've been getting collectively. Now, we've had members that are trading with these indicators since the beginning, and we've got newer members as well. So there's going to be a different level of experience when it comes to these indicators. But I want to cover everything. I think this is going to be great for new and older traders that have these indicators. I think we'll be able to explain a little bit more to each one of them. So SING, C-I-N-G, I've got this on the chart. I've just got a 1 minute chart up, and it's not really important what time frame it is. For most of our indicators, I do use the 1 minute time frame, but you can experiment and use them with other time frames, which we'll go over. You can see I don't have any indicators on my chart. If I did, you would see right here the indicators listed. So I'm going to go to our indicators tab, and I'm going to go to the invite only tab. This is where we're going to find our toolkit. So all of these indicators have been custom built here in-house, and they're specific to a lot of the back-tested data that we collect every day. So each day we're logging different entries. Even if we're not taking trades, each day we're logging, myself and our team are logging these areas of interest and values, and we're really extracting as much data as we can, and then we're molding our indicators based on the data that we collect. So that's for a lot of our dynamic data. We also have historic data that's going to look back more on wider time frames and things like that, but we're going to focus on the indicators themselves today. That's the scope of today's video. So invite only, that's going to be the tab where you're going to find all of your indicators. Now, we have a long list of indicators. Right now, guys, we are working on actually changing up, maybe removing a couple of these indicators. So we want to hear from you guys, and we want to know which ones you're not using. That's why we send out a form each month. So at the end of the month, you'll get a form sent to you in your email. So be checking that, of course. That form is going to allow you to really tell us what you like about these, what you dislike, what you think could be added, what indicators are you using versus what indicators you're not using. So as we get that collective data, we're going to make changes to our indicator list here because we do have more indicators and ideas behind these strategies that we want to implement and add to this. But last thing we want to do is make this overwhelming where it's just too much for you guys to understand and handle. Now, we are also going to be changing names, so that will help as well. Right now, we're working on changing some of the names and titles that we have in here for these indicators, which is going to clean it up as well. You can see that this is in an alphabetical order, at least I believe it is. And so you're going to see these ones up here. The number ones are going to be first, and then, of course, you're going to have Bullish Bob, the C's, the B's, the C's, the D's, right? So in alphabetical order, as far as I can tell here. But what you're seeing at the top is the 10-minute Bullish Pivot Pro. We'll start at the top and just work our way down. I think that's going to be best. We do have some really important indicators towards the bottom of this list. Actually, the volume hunter is on the bottom, so we want to make sure that we touch base on that as well. But we're going to go from top to bottom just to make it easy for everyone, and we'll go over each one and what they're doing here. Now, a lot of these indicators, the Bullish Pivot Pro line, for instance, each one of these may be a different time frame. So the time frame's listed here. So the title's letting you know that this is a 10-minute Bullish Pivot Pro. And you can see that there's no ticker after that. This one has a 10-minute Bullish Pivot Pro Tesla, which means this one is specific for Tesla. And that's what we're doing. We're building some indicators because we have members in our chat, in our community, that are trading specific names like Tesla or SPY, and they want to fixate on opportunities there. So we want to add value in that that realm of stocks and that strategy there that you're already implementing. So what we're trying to do is add extra value on that side of things. So if you're trading Tesla, then we have a list of Tesla names in here. We've got the 10-minute Tesla, the 1-minute Tesla. And the goal and idea here is we're going to get a Bullish Pivot Pro line and a Bearish Pivot Pro line active in here, and we're going to have different time frames listed, because the way we look at it is not every time frame and the results on a certain time frame will be the same type of results on another time frame, right? So we're actually building our code based on time frames, which is really cool because, again, if you prefer to trade maybe the 1-minute chart as I do, then the 1-minute chart, you know, we're going to have a lot of indicators built for the 1-minute chart, right? It's going to be specific for that time frame. But maybe you like to trade the 5-minute chart. Maybe you like to trade the 10-minute chart. Maybe you like to hold longer or whatever it may be. Me, I like to scalp. I like in, out, quick. I like to get in, green, out, hold a lot of for continuation. That's my approach. It's what works for me. Now, others may want to just take the full scalp altogether, and then there is others in our chat that may want to trade wider time frames, which allows them to hold the stock for a longer period of time, right? So if you're taking the analysis on different time frames, these higher time frames like the 15-minute, 10-minute, 5-minute, right, other than a 1-minute, then what you're doing is you're looking at wider time frames that are going to possibly hold more weight for support and resistance areas and for areas of value, right? So each indicator, you can change the time frame, but these are going to be listed specifically for that time frame. So 10-minute Bullish Pivot Pro, that is for that time frame. That is for the 10-minute time frame, right? So that makes sense. Now we have the 10-minute Bullish Pivot Pro for Tesla. Again, makes sense. That's specific for Tesla. So that means if I put this on here, you know, for the 10-minute Bullish Pivot Pro on a 10-minute chart here on CING, we may not get the best results, right? So you want to be aware of what you're trading and what indicator you're adding to your chart, especially if you're using that line there. Now, the Bullish Pivot Pro, it's very simple. We'll go with the 10-minute. I'll go ahead and add this to my chart. So just click on it. We'll add it to your chart. You can see we have a flow zone that's implemented here. So you're going to see this is a flow zone that we have here, which is really just based off of EMAs and price action, dynamic price action here. And we use it to really identify the trend and the strength, right? The sentiment overall. So you can see this is a 1-minute time frame. So this is not the right time frame, although it's still going to show results. So you want to make sure that if this is a 10-minute one and you're looking for a 10-minute analysis, click on the 10-minute chart, right? Hit reset, and there you go. And what I'm noticing here, if you guys notice this as well, is this tends to really respect this 10-minute flow zone. You guys can see this all the way from the start of this move the other day when it was down at $2.25, got this spike. Well, it retraced back down. And what we look at this trend zone as is an area of value. As it pulls back, that could offer entries, right? And it could offer a clear indication. So a lot of times we're using our support and resistance lines and levels to determine where is it bullish, where is it bearish, right? This trend zone is the same type of thing, right? Above the trend zone is bullish, and you can see that it's blue here, and you can change the colors of the trend zone, at least I believe so. We'll go over the settings here in a minute, and if not, we will add that. But this is a newer line of indicators that we're still working on, so we're going to be working out some kinks. We've been sending updates out, and we want to make sure that we backtest these updates before we send them out first. So it does take some time, so just bear with us. But the flow zone, you can see this is our bullish flow zone. In the red area here, that's a bearish flow zone, right? In other words, above this flow zone, that's bullish, right? We can trade in the long direction. If it's below, well, then maybe we can look at a short entry, or we can look to stop out of our positions and look for another entry once it gets back above and safely holds that level. You can see here we got a little chop, right? And that's the thing. This flow zone's not perfect. Nothing ever is. So there is going to be times where it's very strong and the strength is obvious and apparent, and you can look at this in hindsight and say, man, if I would have bought this dip, or I bought this dip, you know, it really would have worked out for me. And if you're buying a dip like this, and again, this is a 10-minute chart, these are holding for longer periods of time. That's a 15% move in about, let's see, 10, 20, 30, 40, about 50 minutes, almost an hour, right? In an hour of time, you're getting yourself an entry. You're scaling out for 15%. You're holding a lot of for continuation. Well, look, it held here. It did not close below, didn't close below. So the way I look at it, guys, is for all of our strategies, the close above, close below is very important, which we sent out an email this week for the indicators, or excuse me, for the candles, and going over what those candles mean. So we look for the strength there of the candle close. So closed over is very strong. So closed here, did not close below. Closed here, didn't close below. So you can easily see at this, right? Hindsight trading's 2020, right, guys? But we can see here that, yes, this was a great entry. Yes, this was a pretty good entry itself. This was a good entry, right? This was a good entry, right? And then once it fades off and it closes down below here, now we can expect that we need to see a nice bullish candle getting above. Well, it did here, closed back below. Did here, held, okay, nice move, right? And it doesn't look like much, but if you're getting in on this type of move or the pullback, you're looking at a 25% move over $1 per share. And again, this is a 10-minute chart, so this is 10-minute analysis here. So you are going to hold these type of positions possibly longer than you would normally a 1-minute chart or a 5-minute chart, right? Or something smaller time frame. Some traders will trade with a 10-second chart, right? You can do that as well. So you can see the opportunity here with that flow zone. But you can also use the flow zone in the idea that it's giving you sentiment. So if you're looking for entries maybe on a 1-minute time frame, maybe you're referring to the 10-minute time frame in this flow zone to know, are we above that flow zone or not? And are we bullish or are we bearish, right? So the Bullish Pivot Pro will go ahead and plot that for you. You can also see these little red X's over here. If you look in on these candles, you'll see these little red X's. These are basically just signals letting you know that these are general rules, that this is becoming extended, right? So if you're in the position, maybe you want to lock in some profit. Maybe it's a time to get yourself a little green on your trade if you haven't already, type thing. Or maybe if you're looking for your entry, maybe this is a little on the extended side. Sure, it had this signal here and then continued. So this is not, again, nothing is perfect, but this is starting to pull back from here. So maybe you're being a little bit cautious here and you're saying, you know what, maybe I'll trade smaller size if I'm taking this entry because I'm seeing this signal. Oh, well, it worked out for me. Great. That's awesome. There's going to be other times where it doesn't work out. There's also going to be times here where it doesn't plot that X because those general rules have not been met. So yes, it's retracing back down, but it's not giving us any signal on the 10-minute chart here as it is over here. So you're going to see different signals based on that information. These are not signals that I typically, will trade full size around or whatever. That's not the bullish or bearish signal. That's a signal that's letting me know, hey, it's a little extended and maybe I want to lock in profit. So if you see those X's, that's what you're going to see. Now, before I get too far into this, actually, let me go back to the indicators tab here and back to the invite only. One thing I want to point out, guys, is that each one of these indicators, if you go to the right-hand side, you can hit this read more to each one of these indicators. And that read more is really going to break down the information for each one of these indicators. And we look to update these for you guys. That way, it really gives you a good explanation of what to expect when you run these indicators on your chart. So if you ever have a question, make sure to check this out first. We've got this read more on the side of each one of these indicators where you can come in here and you can read the description of what is this indicator doing, what are the red X's, what's going on here. And a lot of the information that we're going to cover here today will be in those notes channels. So definitely check that out. So the flow zone, you can see here, here's another red X, right? So clear example that, yeah, maybe this is extended. Maybe I want to let it take a breather here. Okay, there's our red candle. Here's our test of our flow zone. There's maybe an entry. Maybe this is an entry in the red pullback. All of a sudden it held, broke below, closed above, and look at this. All of a sudden closed above. And you can see it really respected that 10-minute flow zone. I was saying this yesterday in chat as well, that this was respecting a 5-minute flow zone. So we'll take a look at that in a few moments here. But you can see that CING was very successful for anyone trading with that flow zone. And that's just one part of the indicator, right? There comes a little extended. Here's your pullback into the zone. Held the zone, clear indication that if I'm buying in this zone, okay, below is bearish. So I don't want the price to be under here, right? I want to stay above this price. And this is more of a trend type of trade. So if you're looking to hold positions for a longer period of time, then sometimes referring to these higher time frame charts using our Bullish Pivot Pro, you can see that trend very clearly. Now, you can see over here, we're now getting green X's and a blue X, or a green X and blue X here. And this is the opposite of our red X's, right? The red X's mean bad, right? It's very simple. It means that it's extended. It means that it's starting to squeeze a little bit, which is great if you're in the position. But if you're not in the position, well, maybe you want to be careful there because that can become problematic. This is a pullback and it's the opposite. It's basically saying, general rule of thumb here, this is overextended, right? This is extended to the low side. So it may get a little bounce here, which is absolutely fine. This is not always the type of trade that I'm looking for, but if I have a nice cushion built up for the week, I can take that type of trade, right? But everyone is different. So I'm individually a little bit more selective as a trader. Maybe you're not. Maybe you continue to trade throughout the day. Maybe you have different trading hours than I have. Maybe you're in a different time zone, right? Maybe you have a larger account or smaller account than me. It really doesn't matter. We're all going to have different goals when it comes to our trading, right? So I have something that works for me. You just have to find what works for you. And you can see that, yes, there's opportunity here, but maybe not the opportunity that I'm looking for, but maybe this is something that you're comfortable trading. This, again, is something that's that's going to look for a possible pop or reverse. There's your pop and reverse. Doesn't look like a whole lot, but if you're measuring at the bottom of this candle and the low of this candle and the top is the greens, that's $1 per share. Again, 99 cents, $1 per share to the top of this move. Now, you'd have to be Superman if you are buying at the low and selling at the high every single time, right? Right? It's not realistic. So really, shave some of that off. So come up here, go up there. That's a reasonable trade, 4%, 56 cents per share. If I got 50 cents a share, that's a reasonable trade. A lot of times I'm looking for 10 cents. I'm looking for 20 cents, right? So if I'm getting 50 cents on my trade, I'll take it. Right? That's a nice hefty gain on a number of shares if you're trading larger size. And if you're trading smaller size, it's still a decent percentage gain at 4%. Now, that's going to be the opposite. So you've got the red X's, you've got the blue X's. Now, keep this in mind, guys, because we've got a lot of Bullish Pivot Pro lines here, and we have a Bearish Pivot Pro as well. And so they're all going to be working about the same type of way. You're all going to see the red X's and the green and blue X's. So that is the explanation on what those are. It's a general rule of thumb that it's extended one way or the other. Green is going to be good, blue is good, and red is bad, right? Very simple and makes sense to me. I think it makes sense to many. So same with the flow zone. Okay, this bluish green area, that's green, that's good. Okay, well, we failed here. Okay, sure, I want to sell at the top of this move, but you'd have to be Superman to catch the top of every single move. But of course, you pull back here and you're looking at maybe 17% off of the top. Yes, you gave back 17%, but look at the move that you were able to lock in. If you were able to get in here once it closed above and then you sold out this candle over here that closed below, it's still 82%. That's $8 per share using the 10-minute flow zone. This is just one indicator that we have available. Now, let's dive into the settings quickly. So let's double click. So this is very interesting, guys. You can double click on the indicator at any point. So if I click on this flow zone, you can see that the little hand comes up. If I double click, it pulls up the indicator settings. So if I want to do it a different way, I can go up to the indicator itself, double click, and it opens up the inputs in the settings, right? If I go to the indicator, go to the three dots. If I go to the indicator and I look at this little icon here, this again is the settings. Click on that, you open up the settings. So there's multiple ways to open up the settings, and it makes it really easy for us to be able to adjust and make adjustments to this on the fly. So maybe you want to have yours set up a different way, you can do that. So let's go into the settings. I'm just going to double click. Now, the period is very interesting. Let me find an example here. I don't think we have any on Sing right now, and well, there's some over here. We've got some Pivot Watch alerts over here, and here's a zone right here. So let me see something here. So this means that it plotted a zone. The signals and conditions were met. This is the zone of or area of interest, right? So all of our zones are going to plot. The idea behind each one of our zones, doesn't matter what code or what indicator we're looking at, the same strategy is implemented into all of our overlays. A close above our pivot zone we look as bullish. This is our area of value, clear indication of strategy. This is where my stop loss will be. If it starts to go against me, I stop out. If it closes back over, I can get back in. It's really, again, up to you. Are you a selective trader? Are you a frequent trader? Are you a trader that trades all day? Do you have different times of availability? Right, we're all going to be different. This is giving our pivot watch. So this is what we're looking at. Let me blow this up. So I'll go into the settings, and right now it is pretty small, and you can see it's layered behind that candle, right? So that's an issue. So if we go to the top, there's a few different ways you can do this. You can go to the top and you can click on your indicator. To the three dots, click on that, go to visual order, and bring to front. That's one way of doing this. Now, another way of doing this, and I didn't do it yet, and you'll see it's still layered behind. Another way of doing this is if you go to the top here, and where the indicator, the ticker symbol is, go to the three dots there, go to visual order, and send to back. And there you go. It's the same thing. What a lot of the issues that a lot of our members have, especially newer members, is that this layerment issue becomes a problem. What happens is some of your indicators are getting stacked on top of others, and so they may be hidden behind other indicators. So you want to make sure that the layerment is correct. And so play around with this. If it's not correct, just play around with your layerment issue, and you'll find that you'll find the way that works for you. Now, what that did is it set this pivot watch signal here. And if I zoom in, I know it's hard to see for you guys, so let me zoom in here. This pivot watch here is now going to show above that red candle. So it doesn't get hidden behind unless, of course, I go over the candles, in which case it's going to hide behind. And you can do that with any indicator. If you click on any indicator, it's going to bring it to the front just for the moment. Now, this is our indicator. This is our pivot watch. That means it's time to start watching for a signal. This is our break of structure, which means it then broke structure. And okay, this is now a bullish signal. Anything below is bearish. Anything above is bullish. You can get into our trade here. We can add into this pivot zone, but if it goes below, rules say got to get out of the position. That's just the way it is. That's how we've developed these strategies in a lot of them. And like I said, guys, for all of our indicators with pivot zones, it's going to be that same type of strategy. A close above, a break of structure signal, that is bullish. Clear indication. This is an area of value for the low side. We start to trend below this. I look at this as bearish and I stop out of my position because I'm not looking to hold any longer than that. I can set an alert at the top of this just by right clicking and setting an alert here, and then I can get notified if we start to gap back above that level, and that's when I can take advantage of this. Until it gets above, I'm not too concerned with it. But that is the strategy behind it. Now, the signal here, as you guys can see, the pivot watch signal is pretty small, right? You can't really see it too well. And we have that like this so that way it makes it easier for everyone to be able to see multiple alerts on their chart. But if you want to enlarge that, if you want to get it bigger, you just double click on this, right? And you can go down to, let's see, to the bullish and bearish signal size is going to be the breakup structure here. The pivot watch, here it is, pivot watch signal. So go ahead and click on this and hit large, right? We'll go to large here. And you can see that it changed it there. You can see that it now changed the level. So you can see that now it changed the pivot watch signal here to a different size, right? And so if you want it to be smaller, you can make it smaller. Here's your option. And I just keep opening this up by double clicking on the pivot watch itself, or you can double click on the indicator. So either way, you can just open up the settings, inputs, and you can go ahead and you can change this pivot watch size, right? So if you want to see it larger, and I'm just going to do this for the sake of this session here, guys. So I'm going to make the bearish and bullish signal, which is this green break of structure down here. You can see if you hover over, I'll make this large as well, just so it's easier for you guys to see. Hit OK to save those settings, and there you go. If at any point you build your indicator to the way you like it and you want to keep it that way every time you load it up, just go to the defaults down here, save as a default, right? So anytime you get completed on your inputs and you're like, you know what, I want every time I load this up, I want those settings, because otherwise it's going to be reset every time. If you want those settings specifically every time you load up your indicator, you just go to the bottom and you go to save as default, and then you can always reset it if you're not sure if it's correct or not. So you can always reset that as well. So, okay, I made those larger, right? Now we can see them easier. You guys can see those. So now what we're looking at is we have a larger breakup structure. That's our bullish signal. This is when we start watching. And the reason we added these labels is because we want to notify you ahead of time when it's time to start watching, so that way you can get prepared and understand what size do you want to take. You know, where do you want your stop loss? What level, right? You can then start to assess the conditions before you enter your trade. You can say, okay, was there volume? Was there not volume? Whatever, right? Double click on this. You can see that you have volume requirements. So this right now is set to 1,000. If maybe you can tell that this really isn't many shares traded on this this ticker here, maybe you want less results but higher higher quality type results, right? But you want less setups here. You can up that number, right? Let's go to 5,000, right? 5,000, just like that. Click off, and guess what? That disappears. And it disappears because there's no volume here, right? We know that. We can see that. So sure, there's a pivot zone here, but maybe this is a weaker pivot zone based on your strategy. So maybe your strategy looks for more volume. We put this volume requirement in there so you can adjust the volume for your pivots. So maybe you're not looking for every single pivot. Maybe you want to only see pivots that have high volume. So that way you're not seeing a whole bunch of pivots on your chart, which will be pretty helpful on something like the 1 minute time frame or other time frames as well. But it's very simple. I mean, we're looking at a 10-minute chart. These are 10-minute candles. This is a 10-minute candle that gave us the pivot if I had it at set back to 1,000. So you can see now we have that pivot. But this 10-minute candle, that's 10 minutes worth of data, only has 1,000 shares traded on the candle, right? So it's very low quality. So not each one of these setups are going to be equally the same, right? Not every setup is going to merit my full size. So I want to be able to assess these type of conditions easily. You can do that just by adjusting that volume just like that. Now, another option you have here is the sensitivity in the pivot period, which will make more sense once I get to the 1 minute time frame, which we will get into. But you'll notice on the indicator and the inputs, guys, each one of these inputs has a little eye next to it. And if you click, or excuse me, if you hover over it, you'll see this one increase to reduce the number of alerts. So if you increase this number, you'll see less alerts. They may be higher quality. You can assess the chart afterwards, so you can backtest these type of things during the off hours or during the times that you're not trading. Maybe you're studying, whatever it may be. You can up the number here. So if I went to 5 and 5, let's see what happens. 5 and 5 here, it disappears again. So again, it's letting us know that this is probably a pretty low quality type of entry in this area, right? That's probably a pretty low type of setup or lower type of quality type of setup where we want to be very careful, right? We can see that. So if you increase this number here, which is typically 1, I'll have it at 1 and 1, and these are multipliers here. So as you add them, you'll see things change. Let me go to 2. Let's see if we have it at 2. Okay, we still have it at 2. Let's go to 3. And this is how I typically adjust it. And I'll show you at the end of this session what I do. And this might be a longer session, guys. So if you're not able to sit in the full session, we will be sending this out as well. But I want to cover a lot in this video. So 5 and 5, it's gone. So 4 and 4, it worked. 3 and 3, it worked, right? And you can just change different numbers. You can change it around here. And this, again, is going to allow you to see different setups. So 1 and 5 is going to be giving you different results than 1 and 1, right? So you can adjust the pivot period. You can adjust the sensitivity. By adjusting these numbers, you will get less alerts, less results like this here. So if you're getting too many results, if you ever find that, you know what, this is just not working, it's not very successful on this stock today, well, maybe you can increase that number, increase these volume requirements, increase these type of things that are going to give you higher quality type of setups versus lower quality type of setups, right? And I'll show you a trick at the end of this of how you can have multiple charts to do that. So we'll keep it at 1 and 1 for now. This will make more sense once we get to a 1 minute. This is going to change it. So each one of these has an eye. You can change the things on each one of these. And we're going to see this here. Break of structure label. Okay, that's going to be this right here. If you hover over any one of these labels, it says pivot watch signal. Okay, this is our pivot watch signal size. Okay, let's hover over this. Break of structure bullish. That's our bullish signal. That's our break of structure label right here. So if I want to change this to, say, yellow, I can do that, right? If we want to change this to red, you can do that as well. You can change it to whatever color you prefer. That's how we have it set up for you guys. So you can set the break of structure or the bullish signal. You can change that to any color. This is our bullish signal. This pivot watch means to start watching. This signal means, okay, I can look at it now as a possible entry, and I can look at this as going long, right? That's what I'm looking at. But you can see you can change the color very easily. Let's go back to, let me cancel this for a minute. I'll go back into the settings by double clicking on it. I'll move this over so you guys can see. Go back to the break of structure signal, and you can hover over this. It says select which color you want for the bullish signal. Bullish is good. Bearish is for the downside. Bullish is for the upside, right? So we've got it green and red, pretty simple, but if you want to change the colors, you can do that as well. You can change the opacity down here as well. So if you go down here, you can change it all the way up, and you can have maybe a blue label. You can have it maybe very faint in the background there. You can choose to do whatever you prefer. It's really up to you. So I'll hit cancel again. If you make any settings that you're not okay with and you're like, oh man, what did I do there? The cancel button. Just hit cancel before you submit it, and it will go back to normal, and then you can double click and restart. So the pivot label color, same thing. If you want to change the pivot label color, that's this right here. You can change it to any color you want. So if yellow is going to be easier for you to see or stand out more for you, maybe you have white charts. I have a black chart here. If you have a white chart or a gray chart, something like that, maybe these colors are something that you'd rather see something else. You can do that, change the color. If you have settings all set up the way you like, go to the default, save as default, and it will load up that way every time. I'm going to hit cancel. I have mine the way I want it. Let's see, the pivot zone color. So that's going to be this zone that you see right here. You can change that color. We are thinking about changing that ourselves where it may change automatically for you. So we may have that dynamically change for you where if the price is above it or if the break of structure is still apparent, it may be green, in other words, as a support zone. And if it goes below, we may look at it as red as a resistance zone. But as for now, that's not how we have it. We have it as a single color. You can choose the color you prefer. Look at it as your key area of value. Anything above is bullish. Anything below is bearish. It's very simple. You can click on this and you can change the color to anything you want, right? So if you want that pivot zone to be yellow, you can have it yellow. If you want it to have blue, right? It looks awkward or weird on my chart, but maybe you have a white chart, maybe you have a different color chart, so maybe you want to see this as a different color. I'll hit cancel again. I don't want to submit that. I want to keep it green. And the way the settings are loaded up, guys, that's how I use them. So typically it's how I use it. There's only a few changes that we'll make here. So you can see that each one of these areas, and this is going to be the same for most of our indicators and overlays, guys. Go to the Inputs tab, double click on it, go to the Inputs tab. You're going to see a list of information here that you can change. These are for the chart signals, right? So these are going to be those chart signals. Pivot zone options, okay, this is our pivot zone. You can change things on the pivot zone. So if I want to extend the pivot zone more to the right, you can see this right here. It says use positive numbers to extend pivot zones to the right. All right, let's go ahead and change this to 75, right? Let's see what happens. All right, now the pivot zone has extended to the right. So let's change this down a little bit. We'll go down to 45. Okay, there we go. So you can extend the pivot zone. So depending on the time frame that you're using, maybe that pivot zone holds more weight. So if it's a 10-minute pivot zone, right, or it's a like this one here, maybe a 10-minute chart holds more weight at that pivot zone than a 1-minute chart, right? Maybe a 1-minute charts are a little bit more choppy at certain times of day, when other time frames like the 10-minute, 15-minute, 20, 30-minute, whatever it may be, higher time frames may provide a larger area of value for a longer period of time, because again, it's a larger time frame. It holds more weight. So in other words, if you want a 10-minute chart, 10-minute zone to hold more weight and extend more to the right, if I'll go ahead and hit cancel here. I'll show you what I mean. So if I want it to cover over here as well and say, you know what, every time it dipped in the zone, it's a buy for me. It's a little scalp, right? You can extend this. Okay, 75, hit OK. Let's see where it goes. There we go. So now we can see, okay, now we're below it. That's bearish. So you can extend those zones. And if you want to have it smaller, maybe it's a 1-minute time frame, maybe you don't think they hold as much weight, you can have this down to, we'll say, we'll just put 5, right? Put 5, and there you go. A tiny little zone there. So I'll go back to this and go back to, I believe we had it at 20, but you guys can adjust it to whatever you prefer. So again, on the side of each one of these, it's going to give you an idea of what this is. Down here, we've got extreme pivot zone options. Turn on or off extreme pivot zones. Currently, it is off. I have it off automatically. You can turn this on. So if I go to this, if I go over to the start of our chart over here, we'll probably see one. Let me go ahead and double click on our indicator. I'm going to go down to our extreme pivot zone options. Hit turn on. Click that on. It should turn it on. And you can see one right in there. It's hard to see. I'll zoom in here. You can see one right here as well. We'll go ahead and zoom in. You can see that this is our pivot zone. So if we're trading on a 10-minute chart, you see, oh, it plotted a pivot zone. That's now an issue. And I think I might have had this. Let's see. Get this up to 25 and hit OK. Should extend that. There we go. So now you can see, okay, this is my area of value. This is a resistance. So if I'm coming back up here, maybe an area I want to take some profit. Now, again, same idea, guys, for all of our indicators. Once the price closes above the pivot zone, it is considered bullish. This was the first candle that closed over that pivot zone. Now it needs to hold above this pivot zone low. That's going to be right here, 474. So you can see that it closed below, I believe, on this candle. So let me extend that to C. And again, you guys can do this yourselves as well. I'll go to 70. Okay, so that's our area of value. Okay, close below right there, close back above, can get back in. So again, clear indication of where do I get in, where do I get out? Okay, this was the area of value. It closed above this area. It retested the area. That may be my entry. Maybe I bought on the candle closing over. Maybe this is my entry. Okay, it held. As long as it stays above this level, I'm good to go. Maybe get stopped out here. Can get back in here. Got about above the flow zone. And maybe this is something you're looking at too. Maybe you're combining the two strategies, right? It closed above the pivot zone, but it was struggling here at this area. Okay, we came back. We closed back above the flow zone. We closed above the pivot zone. There's two signals saying, okay, we're good to go. We retested the area. We're taking profit here, right? Or whatever it is for you guys. You guys can determine when you want to take profit or not. I often take profit pretty quick. So 10-minute chart, I would be taking profit on this move. Yes, it pulls back, stops below the level. Okay, we held, and all of a sudden it just exploded. Now you can see we're getting more over here. Same idea. Clear indication, right? This is where it gave us our zone. This is resistance, resistance, resistance. Broke above. Okay, held, did not retest. So if you waited for the retest, maybe you didn't get your entry. If you bought the close above, that was our bullish signal. It continued, right? Continue. Plotted a resistance zone. Okay, we need to close above. We did. Fail. This is a fail, and this is where you'd have to get out of your position if you're trading that type of strategy. Now, all of a sudden, you can see it was below the flow zone. It was also below our pivot zones. Now, look at this. We got above the flow zone here. We held the flow zone. We're holding up. We're holding up. All of a sudden, we closed above this zone, so that's another bullish signal. all of a sudden we're off to the races, right? And same idea. Pivot zone up here, it's extended, needs to stay above. If it can't hold above, I can't trade it. If it's below, it's bearish. If it's above, it's bullish. It's very, very simple, right? And we've implemented that simplistic type of approach to all of our indicators. You're going to see that a lot of indicators have these pivot zones. These pivot zones are based on a number of conditions that we use from our backtested data that we update every single day. So we are going to be sending updates out to you guys as well, and you're going to see that there will be changes made to each one of these as the market shifts and the market sentiment and things shift. We want to shift our code as well. We want to make sure that we're dynamically changing code as the market is changing as well. We want to keep up with all of the recent changes. So that way we're not just saying, you know what, this worked 3 years ago. Will it work today? We don't know that. We can't guarantee that. So we want to make sure that we're staying up with the most recent data. So you can see, okay, closed above. And typically I wouldn't have them this extended, so we can go to 50, say. So you can see how easy it is to adjust that, though. You can go into the settings, just double click on the pivot zone, or if you want to double click on the indicator, you can do that as well. And you guys will see that we have the extreme zones turned on. If you have that turned off, you're not going to see those extreme zones. Now, a couple other indicators that we have available may be plotting those zones already for you, but this is something that I like to have on mine, so I turn it on. A lot of users don't want to have it on automatically because, again, they're using other indicators. So we have the option for you to turn it on or off. It's that simple, just like that. Now, a support pivot zone and a resistance pivot zone. Resistance is going to be these red zones. Support, you'll see a green zone. Right now, I'm not seeing a green zone. Here's one over here. So I'll zoom in here, and this is going to be that green zone. So again, if you want to change the areas or the colors here, you can do so. So this means this is an area of value to the low side for a possible bounce. This is an area of value for a possible either short or look for an entry close above, right? No matter what zone you're looking at, no matter what color you're looking at, again, the strategy remains the same. Close above the pivot zone is bullish. That's our sentiment. That's where we say, okay, you know what? I can implement any strategy I want as long as it's above this pivot zone. Okay, it's not above the pivot zone. Maybe I'll just hang tight. All of a sudden, we got a pivot zone here. Until it gets above this pivot zone, this is now bearish. And you can see that it just trickled all the way down. And then we're starting to get these pivot zones here. Here's an opportunity. Faded back off. Okay, glad I got out, right? So if you're not getting out of your positions, that's fine. But for me, I want to get out of this position because sure, it curled back up. Sure, you could say that, you know, if I held this for a few days, it moved back up. That's not day trading. That's swing trading. I don't swing trade, guys. I day trade. I don't swing trade low float stocks. The only stocks that I swing trade are going to be large cap names like Tesla, SPY, Apple, AMD, Nvidia, things like that, where they're not going to just, you know, give an offering overnight or come out with an offering at 4 a.m. in the morning when I'm sleeping and I wake up to see that I'm down 40, 50% on my position, right? So these are clear indications. This is dynamic support and resistance where I can get in, get out, get in, get out, get in, get out, right? So that way I can really have a clear indication. This is bullish. This is bearish. Okay, I'm out of the way. Okay, we popped up. Now I'm looking for an entry. There's my entry. Sure, that there may have been entries in here. Sure, we all want to be Superman and get the bottom of this this chart and get it all the way to the top. But that's just not feasible, guys. That's not going to happen all the time. So that's just living in a fantasy world. That's not going to happen. Sure, 834%. If you're holding from over here and you made 800%, you're going to look like the smartest trader in the world. But you know, a lot of those traders are not disclosing all of the other positions that they have that are losing trades. They're going down in there and against them. Sure, they may not be going down 800%, but we've seen stocks that will literally go down, you know, overnight as an offering and halt and be halted for a month. We've seen that before. So you want to be very careful with trading these low float stocks. But clear indication, close above, bullish, close below, bearish. Doesn't matter what color the zone is. But if you go into the settings, you can change the color of the zone at this time. So that's going to be the extreme pivot zone. Turn on, turn off. Turn on, turn off. Very simple. Down at the bottom, we've got flow zone options as well. You can toggle on and off the flow zone. So if you don't want the flow zone on, hit that right there. You can see the flow zone disappears. And I'll zoom in on this chart real quick. So it makes it easier for you guys to see. I'll go right here. So if you don't want this flow zone on your chart, double click on the indicator at any point. Go down to the flow zone options, and you can turn this off using this toggle. Okay? Turn it off. There you go. It's off. Now, a lot of users or our community members maybe are using the flow zone, and some are maybe not. So we like to add these options for you to be able to customize this indicator to suit your needs. So maybe you have other indicators that are already plotting something like that. Maybe it's not really up to you know, what you're using. You're not using the flow zone as much. Whatever the reason may be, you have the option to turn that on and off. So just like that. I like to have mine on. I'm just going to leave it on. So one other thing that I want to go over before we move on from here, and I'm taking some time on this indicator, guys, because the Bullish Pivot Pro line is going to be very similar. You're going to see a lot of the similarities here on this indicator, so this is going to cover a lot of those. So if you guys watched it to this point, you're going to have a better understanding of how all of our Bullish Pivot Pro indicators work, because no matter what time frame you're looking at, no matter which one you're looking at, the strategy and everything remains the same. Okay, so this is all going to remain the same. One thing that I'm seeing that I dislike, I don't like myself, guys, the numbers on the side here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers on the side here. I don't want to see that. Double click on the indicator. Go to Style. Go all the way to the bottom in Style, and you'll see labels on price scale, values in status line. So that's going to be these numbers up here. So we've got a list of numbers up here, and that can be annoying at times, and a list of numbers over here. Some traders like to see those. I don't. So I gave the option in here. Go to the bottom, and under precision here, labels on price scale, check that. They disappear. See that when I check that? You can see that they disappear on the side. And this status line is up here. Turn that off, and there you go. So if you want a cleaner, you can do that. Once you have it to the way you really love it, guys, I'm telling you, save it as a default, and it will load up that way each time. Now, if you ever want to reset the settings, it's simple. Just hit reset, but save it as a default, and then every time you load it up, it will load up that way, right? Maybe you have the same chart. Maybe you're looking at this chart, and you don't want to see this indicator. Maybe you have a 1-minute time frame, and you don't want to see this. Go to the visibility, and if this is only for a 10-minute chart, you can come in here and hit 10 minutes right there, and hit, let's see, 10 right there. So this is only going to be, I'll check off these other boxes. What this is doing and saying is that this indicator will now only work, visibility will only be shown on a 10-minute time frame. So 10-minute chart. So hit OK, and you'll see there's no change. But watch what happens when I switch to a 5-minute chart. It's gone. It disappeared. And that's because, again, we're not using a 10-minute Bullish Pivot Pro for the 5-minute chart. So you can see it turned it off automatically for us. Now you can turn it back on, but as you can see, if you go to the visibility here, it's set to 10 minutes. Again, if you want to reset that, you can go to reset to settings, or you can change this. You can just adjust this, but this is going to be your minutes. So you can do this with any indicator. So if you want to see this on only a 1-minute chart, you can do that. If you want to see it on a 10-minute chart only, you can do that. So if you switch from time frame to time frame on your same chart, then you can say, okay, well, if I have multiple indicators, I only want this indicator to show on a certain time frame. You can do that. So go into the settings, visibility, change the time frame, hit OK, you're good to go. So you can see on the 5-minute, it's not showing. 1 minute, it's not showing, right? We're not getting those alerts because, again, it's not built for a 1-minute time frame. So go to the 10-minute chart, and there you go. You can see these alerts all of a sudden are back. So now, let's move on. So that's our 10-minute Bullish Pivot Pro, built for the 10-minute time frame. Yes, it has a flow zone. This flow zone, everything that you see on a 10-minute chart is wider time frame, so may hold more weight as support or resistance. Doesn't mean that it's a guarantee it's going to hold that level. There is no guarantee in trading, guys. That's low float stocks for you. What it means is that you can get your entries and exits. It's very clear indication. Okay, I'm looking at this. Closed above the pivot zone, needs to hold. Held the pivot zone. Okay, I'm back in my position. It exploded. Great. This one, closed above our pivot zone. Okay, here's a pivot zone taking some profit. Stop is still below this pivot zone. Never stopped out. Okay, great. Closed above the pivot zone. Stopped out here. Okay, I got out. That's a loss. All of these were wins. Loss here. Got back in. All of a sudden, it exploded, and it was in my favor. Get in here. Okay, it chopped up. Loss. Okay, couldn't hold a zone. I can't stay in my position. Okay, that's it. And this is just one of many indicators we have. We have other indicators that will spot areas of value. So there may have been something up here that is showing that there was some resistance here, which we may see on other time frames. And that's why we like to use different time frames for different analysis at the same time to really give us a clear indication of what's going on right now. You know, what's happening. All right, we're going to move on here. I did spend some time on the 10-minute Bullish Pivot Pro. So I'm going to delete that off the chart. If ever at a time you screw something up or it deletes off your chart, hit the undo button right there, and there it's back on my chart. Okay, there's a little trash can next to it. Can delete it. Okay, great. If you want to delete all the indicators on your chart at one time, you can go to this little trash can at the bottom. Remove one indicator, or you can remove all indicators if you have multiple indicators. So we'll remove this. Let me get a drink of water here, and we'll continue. So now we're going to dive into the indicators, and we're going to dive into, let's see, Tesla for a minute. It's pretty self-explanatory. I won't spend too much time on it. But if you click on the 10-minute Bullish Pivot Pro TSLA, this is specific for Tesla. Again, you'll see the flow zone. Okay, great. Same idea. It's got the flow zone. We've got some pivot watches. We've got some alerts over here, but this is not optimized and built for Sing. This is not built for low flow stocks. This is built for Tesla. So go over to Tesla, TSLA, and you'll see we're getting entries and exits, right? So that's what's happening. You're going to see that we're getting these break of structures, bullish, and pivot watch signals, same idea. So it's the exact same indicator. It's just built specifically for Tesla on a 10-minute time frame. So if you like to trade Tesla on a 10-minute time frame, then maybe this is going to aid in entry and exit. And you can always combine this. So you don't have to trade this solely by itself. You can always combine this with other indicators or other strategy you already have. So if you're a trader that loves to trade Tesla on the 10-minute time frame, this is going to help understand sentiment and value there, and you can use this to your aid. Now, again, you're going to see that these pivot watch labels are stacked behind our candles. To adjust that, go to the layerment issue here, 3 dots, visual order, bring to front. There you go. You're done. If you see that these are too small, go in here, go to the inputs, double click on the indicator. Turn on the extreme zones, and if you want to, that's up to you, of course. You can see the zone is now plotted up here. I like to have the extreme zones on, some don't, so we have that as an option again. And then go to your, let's see, the size here, large and large. And this is more so for this demonstration here and for this class. So larger, you can see it. Okay, it's stacked on top. Okay, great. This is where I can get in. Needs to hold a level. It did. Taking profit. Okay, great. Here's our pivot zone resistance. Okay, once it starts fading under our areas of value, it is bearish. Well, guess what? It was bearish. Curled back up. Here's your entry. Closed above, bullish. Closed above, bullish. Closed above, bullish, right? And you guys can see it's clear indication of where to get in, where to get out. Now, again, this is a 10-minute time frame indicator built specifically for Tesla. You'll see that in the indicators. So you can see this 10-minute Bullish Pivot Pro Tesla. All of the Bullish Pivot Pros are going to have the same type of rules, guys. So it's going to cover all of those. So I think we spent some time on that one, but it's going to cover all of these. So let me go back into this. So pretty self-explanatory. 10-minute Tesla, that's going to be for a 10-minute chart on Tesla. So you can use that for aiding an entry and exit. 1 minute Bullish Pivot Pro. This is becoming one of my favorite indicators that we have, if not my favorite. I really love this indicator. Add that to your chart, and what you'll see is, again, this is a 10-minute chart. We've got it on Tesla. You can see that we're not getting too many signals here. Okay, there's a signal over there. Yes, maybe you'll find some value here. You can look that up yourself, but it is not optimized for Tesla on a 10-minute time frame, right? The 1 minute Bullish Pivot Pro is for 1 minute time frame or 1 minute time frames here. And for stocks that are low float. This is optimized for stocks that are low float. This is not a low float stock on Tesla. So you can see a lot of these X's, but you're not seeing any entries on the on Tesla, right? Okay, so let's go back to Sing. If we hit Sing and we hit reset on the chart, you'll see it's loading up. There it is. Okay, great. Now you can see that we have multiple entry and exit signals here on the 1 minute time frame for Sing. Okay, great. This again is the same idea, but on a 1 minute time frame. So this is going to be for quicker trades, faster type of entries and exits, right? So if you're looking to get in, out, green, real quick, right, and then hold your lotto like I do oftentimes, this is going to be a really helpful indicator. So it's identifying areas of value. So same idea. So this is very interesting here too, guys. This pivot zone, although it failed the pivot zone right here and it closed below, yes, this is bearish. But once it got back above right here, this is our bullish signal, right? So again, this is our first break of structure. This is our first fail of support. Close above this pivot zone is bullish. That's our clear indication. Anything above this is good. Anything below this is bad, right? It makes it really simple and a really simplistic approach to what we're doing here. We're plotting an area of value on the chart to then give clear indication where our strategy should be. I can go long above this area. I can go short below this area. If I go long, my stop is here. If I go short, my stop is here, right? It's very, very simple. And you can see that Sing then continued to gap up. And you can see these little X's here from our Pivot Pro as well. Okay, we're getting these red X's. We're starting to extend, pull back, dipped into our flow zone, held the flow zone. So if you're looking for an entry, there's a possible entry there. Went up, okay, red X's, pull back, pivot watch, no break of structure, not yet. So all of a sudden it's not really giving us much. It's now, as you can see, this would be consolidation. This is very choppy price action. But if you're in the last pivot, which was down here, you're good. If you're in at this this touch back over here and your stop is below this area, well, then you're still good. Now, if you sold into this, you could always get back in once it closes back above, held the area. right? So you're seeing the strategy here. You're seeing it laid out right in front of you. But the thing is that not all indicators, or excuse me, not every setup is going to be the best setup, right? Some of these are going to be choppy. Some of these are going to give you mixed results. So over here you can see, okay, this was a great one, right? It held the level, closed above, held, continued. Okay, if we measure this move, we're looking at, let's see, 35%, again, over $1 per share. These are minute candles. So this is less than, this is an hour. You're holding this for about an hour of time and you're getting yourself that type of gain. That's really amazing. If you could trade an hour out of the day, get yourself that type of pivot, it's great, right? But you can see that we have multiple alerts, and not all of these are going to give you that break of structure. Right here, we got the pivot watch. So it gives you the signal, lets you know, hey, we're getting a pivot watch. It's time to start watching. Well, we didn't get the break of structure till here. Then we held the level. We did not close back below, as you can see. It did give us a little pop here, but then it failed the level. Once we're below this zone, so you can just basically come in here and draw a line. Once you're below this line, the bottom of this zone, if it closes below, that is bearish. It doesn't matter what I think, that's bearish, right? It needs to get above that zone and hold that zone. That's an area of value. So you're going to get more frequent alerts on the 1 minute time frame. You can see this on CING, but you can see that many opportunities were working out to be a really nice setup. This was seeing during the intraday yesterday. I mean, if anyone took this type of setup here, 386, it's letting you know that that's the area. So if you ever hear me say, it's bearish under 386, that's because of this pivot watch. I'm saying, you know what? It just gave us an area of value. Under that is bearish. I want to be careful. You can see this went all the way up to this went up $2.91, almost $3 per share, 75%, and you held it for about 3-4 hours. Yes, it's a long hold. You could be taking profit down here, which is oftentimes what I'm doing because I don't like to sit at the computer or babysit my trades all day. But hey, if you're a trend trader, you want to hold onto it for a longer type of swing or move, you can do that still using these indicators and using the strategy behind it. So over here, you can see that it was popping up. Now, let's see what happens if I add the extreme zone. So the extreme zone does not load up automatically. Go down to the extreme zone right here in the options. I just did that by double clicking on the break of structure. You can double click on the indicator. Doesn't matter how you do it. We're going to go down to the extreme zones. I do want to turn that on. Hit OK. Let's see if we see anything here. It's loading up. You can see these little dots loading. And there we go. Now we can see that we are getting these pivot zones, right? So if I turn this on and off, it's off. Turn it on, it's on, right? So again, it's giving clear indication. If I didn't get this break of structure over here and I missed out and I said, you know what, there wasn't much volume, I couldn't really trade it, that's fine. Here's a break of our pivot zone. Closed above, held the pivot zone. Okay, great. Closed above, held the pivot zone, right? Closed above, held the pivot zone until all of a sudden it plotted another pivot zone. Closed above this pivot zone is bullish. It closed below the pivot zone, that's bearish. Closed below this pivot zone, that's bearish. And these are our signals to exit. Okay, we can get back in. So it's giving you dynamic support and resistance on the fly, right? It's letting you know in, out, in, right? It's so simple. And that's, I'll tell you what, guys, I'm a very simplistic type person. If you add too much to it, it becomes very confusing, and it's something that I struggle with. So I want to see simplicity. I want to see very simple price action. Okay, I can get in. I can get in. I can get in if I'm going long. Okay, I can get in if I'm going short, or I can exit my position as this is now breaking the flow zone as well as our pivot zone. And you can see that, guys. This is a combination, right? Close below the pivot zone, or excuse me, the flow zone, which is now red. Close below the pivot zone, which is now red, right? And all of a sudden we're now below that pivot zone. This is a bearish signal. That means I'm exiting my position. I'm not holding on to it looking for it to get to new highs. I'm trading the price action and the volume as I see it, right? If you look over to the right hand side, you're going to see that we now have a pivot zone at the top of this move. Same idea. So there's extreme pivots. If you go in here and turn this on or off, is going to give you indication of other areas of value. I love to have it on myself. Some traders don't. That's why we have this option. So you can choose what's right for you. And if you like it to load up that way every time, so you don't have to load a new chart and it's all wonky and you have to go through the settings again, guys, just go to the settings, save as your default. Once you get this all complete the way you like it, save it as a default. Now I'm going to turn on my flow chart signals, and that's it for me. I'm going to hit OK. And now, same idea. If I go over to the right-hand side here, I want to show you something. I'll hit reset, make it easier. Just right-click and hit reset. Okay, again, we have the values on the side. I don't want to see that. So let me double-click on this, go to the style, all the way to the bottom, labels and values, turn those off. And there we go. They're off here. They're off here. My chart is cleaner. It's easier to process, and I don't have to worry about that as much, right? Okay, this red signal here, I don't know if we've covered this enough yet, but this is our bearish signal. Now, You don't need this to understand that it's bearish, although we're trying to implement and make sure that we have these in place. But it could happen way over here. It could happen back here, right? So it's not always going to give you the break of structure. So I want you guys to understand. Below the pivot zone is bearish. If we close below that pivot zone, this is a 1 minute chart, a 1 minute Bullish Pivot Pro. If we close below, that's all she wrote. I'm now out of my position. If we get back in, so this is the, I'll draw a line here and a line here, right? So that means anything above the second line, the top line, is bullish. Okay, we closed above here. Great, I can get in. Close above here. Great, I can get back in. Close below. Okay, I'm back out. Yes, it was choppy, but I got myself out of the way before something like this happened. The last thing I want to do, guys, is be in a trade that does something like this. So I am very, very well aware of mitigating risk and losses by adjusting the code and adjusting our strategy based on what we see. So dynamic data here says, sure, I can get in here, but if you hover over these candles, guys, you'll see at the top here, 8,000 shares, 4,000 shares. That candle that closed over was 8,000, 4,000. This candle that closed over here, 1,000 shares. That means there's no volume here, right? There's very, very little volume. That means, am I taking this full size? No, not all trades will be the same. So yes, it did close above the pivot zone, but does that mean I just smash that buy button and start buying? No, it doesn't. Because again, this is lower volume. So sure, I could take maybe 100 shares or a few hundred shares, like a lotto type of thing, but I'm not going full size in something like that. As you guys can see, it is lower volume, which we do have a volume indicator that will spot that. We'll go over that towards the end of this. So same idea, guys. All of the indicators will have the inputs. Go down the list. You can optimize these inputs or the way you want to have it. I do have multiple charts. Let me get rid of the lines here. Now, if you're looking at this chart, right, and you're saying, you know what, this is just too many. I don't want to see this many alerts on this chart. I want to see less, right? I want to see higher quality maybe. Maybe you deem it as needs to have more volume. Okay, let's change this to, let's say for a 1 minute chart, it has to have 50,000 shares. Okay, and I'll move this over so we can see if any of these disappear, which I'm guessing some of these will. So hit OK, or I'll just click off for a minute. And I don't think I saw any of these bump off. So let's change this to, let's say, 500,000. 500,000 shares in a single minute, right? Which is not going to have a lot of alerts, I don't think. So click off of that. And there you go. You can see that we only have one that's over here. So maybe you're looking at your zones and you want to see high volume type of zones. Well, you can do that as well. Maybe you look at the volume as an indicator to really give you indication that this is a stronger pivot area. This is a stronger pivot zone, right? So maybe I want to be well aware of this. This is the area I want to be trading around. So you can adjust that volume. So I'll hit cancel here, go back to the original. Double click on this. We're back to 1,000. It just comes based on 1,000 shares. I don't want to see ones with a 0. If you zoom out here, let me zoom out a little bit more on this chart. We don't have a lot of other previous alerts on this chart, and that's because, again, low volume, low volume, low volume, low volume. These did not have over 1,000 shares. So let me just zoom out here, double click on this again, and we'll go ahead and change the pivot period. So let's change the pivot period to 5 and 5. So that's going to be extreme pivots, in other words. So 5 and 5 and see if we continue to get all these. No, we don't. We only get one over here. So we get less, right? We get a pivot watch over here, but we didn't get the break of structure. We got a pivot watch over here. We did get a break of structure, small win there. But we can see that once you go to 5 and 5, you have less alerts. So if you're getting too many alerts, if you notice, hey, you know what? This thing is giving way too many alerts. If you want stronger type of alerts and less of them, you can adjust these settings. 3 and 3. Okay, there's our pivot watch over here. I'll go with 2 and 2. And play around with this, guys. Play around with these numbers. Look at the back-tested results and see if it really fits your strategy or not. See if it was a higher quality setup based on something like that. This, again, is for you guys to adjust to make it easy for yourself. I will show you. I have multiple charts. I have one that's set to 1 and 1, one that's set to 3 and 3, one that's set to 5 and 5. I always like to look at different charts for stronger alerts. If I see that, yes, we have one on the 1 and 1, but we also have one on a 5 and 5, well, that means it's a stronger alert. That means, yes, I see it on the 1 minute chart or the 1 and 1, the smaller or the lower quality type alerts, but I'm also getting a high quality alert as well. So you can see that just by adjusting there. And you don't have to do that. I like to keep it at 1 and 1 for my base, and then you can always adjust from there. You can see multiple alerts. Now, same idea. You can adjust the size of the label. You can adjust the extension of the zone. The zone holds a little bit less weight on a 1 minute chart because it is a 1 minute time frame. Turn on the back-tested alerts, which is not going to really do much for you guys here. What that means, whenever you turn on the back-tested alerts, if you toggle that on, what means is these labels, you're only going to be able to see so many of these labels Just that's TradingView. They don't allow us to have more labels at a certain point. So what I did is I added that backtest option in there. So if you double click and go to the bottom, this is toggle on and off. You can turn that on, and you'll see that whenever a condition was met, it plots a different signal. That way you can go in history and say, you know, how many alerts was there this past year or past few years or past whatever. You can just do this right here. Keep scrolling, and you can see the alerts. As you can see, there's not many alerts here on Sing, but for other names, you'll be surprised. There'll be a lot of alerts. So that means Sing didn't really have any volume until all of a sudden it did, and now all of a sudden our indicator is working. So 1 minute Bullish Pivot Pro, very simple, simplistic strategy, guys. As all of our Bullish Pivot Pros will be the same. Close above the zone is bullish, close below is bearish. It's that simple. Anything below, if we close below, that's it. I stop out. And a lot of times in the market hours, you'll hear me having a hard stop just below that level. So clear indication, closed above the pivot zone. This is a fail, so let me zoom in here. They're not all going to work out, guys. This is a fail. So yes, it closed above the zone. Fail here, get back out. Closed back above. Okay, I'm back in. I'd rather be out of the position rather than having a overnight bag that I'm now bag holding, right? Closed above, there's an entry. Closed above, there's an entry. Closed above, here's an entry. This is a really, really nice entry, actually, which we went over. This was a touch of our flow zone. So we were above our flow zone, touched the flow zone, gave the pivot zone, gave a break of structure signal. I mean, it's really beautiful. And this is our pullback here. Take profit into here. Then if it closes above, you can get in. It did close above. There you go. Held, held, held. Really, really beautiful type of entries using our pivot zone. So if you guys are using these properly, then of course you're seeing the opportunity here. That's our 1 minute Bullish Pivot Pro. I'm just going to delete this off the chart for now. I think we covered pretty much bulk of that. As I go down this list, guys, I'm not going to get into each one of these because I want to save some of your time. But that being said, we are working on tutorials as well, but we do have a lot of tutorials out. 1 minute Bullish Pivot Pro, that is for the 1 minute time frame. 1 minute Bullish Pivot Pro is for Tesla, TSLA. Let's just quickly add it. And this is specifically for Tesla. So it's going to load up here. You can see at the top. Okay, it's loaded up. Sure, there's some alerts here, but I don't care because it's not optimized for Sing. So I'm not using that indicator for Sing. I'm using it for something like Tesla. Same idea. Close above our pivot is bullish. Close below is bearish. Here's our close above the pivot. And it's hard to see this pivot, which we are going to make adjustment here. You can see that this was the pivot. You can't see the zone here, which we're going to adjust. I think this is more of an issue with Tesla. You can see some of these zones are a little smaller. So we're going to adjust the code here a little bit. You guys will get updates. But regardless, that's your breakup structure. That means it closed above the zone. Down below this pivot, watch 214.23. That's where the stop should be. Held. Okay, great. Over here, it held above, closed below, chop, chop, chop. Right here, it held above, closed below. That's an exit, right? Got to get out, or you can short as it fades back off. And same idea. I'm sure if we turned on extreme zones at the bottom here, extreme zones, turn it on, hit OK. I'm sure we'll see some extreme zones that will offer opportunity as well. This is built specifically for Tesla on the 1 minute time frame. This is going to be optimized for Tesla on the 1 minute time frame. So these are going to give you different alerts based on what you see on TSLA, not for other names. So you're going to see different alerts in here, different opportunities. But of course, it's Tesla. It's going to be pretty frequent alerts. Now, let me delete this off the chart. Go to indicators. All right, so we're going to move on from the Bullish Pivot Pro for now. We're going to go to the Bearish Pivot Pro. So Bullish Pivot Pro, you're going to see each one of these are listed. 1M, little m there is 1 minute. 1W, that's SPY for weekly. This is a weekly Bullish Pivot Pro for SPY on the weekly. I'll add that to the chart just quickly. This is for the weekly time frame, so switch to a weekly time frame. Go to SPY. This is not built for Tesla here. This is built specifically for SPY, and you can see why. You can see all the times that we got a pivot watch on SPY and where this was considered bullish price action. So if you're trading SPY, SPY, pivot, 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 right? Makes sense what's going on here. Everything makes sense what's going on here. Now, this one we are adjusting. This doesn't give you the breakup structure yet. This was older code that we have not addressed yet. We will be addressing this, but same idea. Gives the pivot watch where you start watching, and it gives you the breakup structure, or excuse me, the close above that's going to be above your pivot zone. So pivot zones, clear indication of what's going on here. We are adjusting this code. We will be sending an update out. We just need time to adjust, guys. So it takes us time to adjust and then backtest. It is a very time intensive type of approach, but it is well worth it. So just give us some time. We will get these updates out to you. But for now, the code is working. 5 minute Bearish Pivot Pro. This is very important to me. This is a new line that we're coming out with. We just came out with the Bullish Pivot Pro. We're working on updating that code with our backtested data. We also now are uploading a Bearish Pivot Pro. We have short sellers in chat. A lot of short sellers that are in chat with us that are going to be trading, And a lot of times they're looking for opportunities to the downside. So if I go to CING, you're not going to see anything on SPY there. Same idea. We are now seeing a Bearish Pivot Pro. Okay, so this is letting us know that, okay, if we get the pivot watch, it's the opposite of our Bullish Pivot Pro. So if we get above this, that's our pivot watch signal. We're above. Okay, this is bullish for anyone who's trading long. Close below like this here is now bearish. That's for anyone trading short. Okay, we're breaking down. If it can't get above this pivot zone, that's it. Stop would be above. Okay, here's a pivot watch. Here's our pivot zone right here. Okay, fade back off. So this would be attractive for short sellers. For me, I look at it as an area of value for me to look at for taking profit. So if I'm looking for quick scalps, I'm looking for an area to take profit in my trades. Oftentimes, the Bearish Pivot Pro on the 5-minute time frame is going to really provide those type of those areas of value to lock in profit. So this here, you can see that if I was taking a scalp, maybe I saw a Bullish Pivot Pro here. Maybe as we enter this pivot zone, I'm taking some profit. Glad I did. It faded back off. Now we closed above that pivot zone. Same idea. No matter what pivot zone you're looking at, it's the same idea. It's a very strong interest or area of value. Close above is bullish. That needs to hold. Clear indication of where to get in and where to get out. So this is a close above on this candle. Needs to hold this level. Okay, it did. Never came back down and took off, right? Then we're seeing a very, very high, after a strong move, very high pivot zone here. There's your pivot watch, pivot watch. So this pivot watch is saying watch for the signal. Okay, we didn't get the signal. You don't see the pivot zone. It is still bullish, right? This, all of a sudden, we got the pivot signals. We got the break of structure bearish. This is bearish. Yes, this would be an attractive short. Well, all of a sudden, you get stopped out. Same idea as our Bullish Pivot Pro. It closed above. Doesn't matter what you think. It matters what the strategy is telling us. A close above this level, our opinions get thrown out the door, right? A close above this level is bullish. A close below this level is bearish. Closed above, bullish. Okay, continuation. It held the level, didn't close back below. We're starting to see more pivot zones, chop, 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 right? And we're expecting choppy price action. Well, guess what? We ended up getting choppy price action. Even on this pop here in the aftermarket, it popped up. Everyone's getting excited saying, oh man, things, about to get back up there. We know we have this pivot zone. If you want to extend that over, you can do so just by going into the settings. Just like that, you can now extend it over. It'll take a second. There you go. So again, this is a pivot zone on a 5-minute time frame, which is a wider time frame than our 1 minute, letting us know that this is an area of value either to the short side, or if I'm scalping, I'm looking to take profit here, right? So taking profit into this zone and looking for a close over for an entry. Fade back off. There you go. So very simple. GOVX. I'll go over to GOVX for a minute and see if we have any over here. This one, we can see that we don't have any. This is going to be different. You can turn on the extreme zones, which is going to be on the the Bullish Pivot Pro. So what I like to do, guys, just a quick tip, I like to have the 5-minute Bullish Pivot Pro and the Bearish Pivot Pro on the same chart. So I'll click the Bearish Pivot Pro and the Bullish Pivot Pro, click on that. And the reason I like this is the Bullish Pivot Pro will provide possible entries, as you can see, to the bounce side. So again, it's for a 5-minute time frame. That's the time frame we're on. Bullish Pivot Pro, that's what we have. And if you double click on this, you can go to turn on the extreme zones, which you'll probably notice a couple extreme zones here in just a minute. Turn this on, and you can see the extreme zone here. So these are extreme zones. So it's giving, again, dynamic price action with the flow zone here, letting us know the sentiment and dynamic here. The pivot zone, okay, closed above. This is a pivot zone. That's our break of structure signal, bullish, and in our flow zone. Very nice signal there. Continued. Maybe you missed out. Here's another break of structure. It's harder to see because it's stacked behind there a little bit. Again, you can change the colors if you prefer. If you want to change this to, say, blue so it stands out more, you can do that. There's your break of structure. Okay, great. We're back in. Continuation, continuation, continuation. Now, one thing I want to say, guys, on all of our indicators, all of the Bullish Pivot Pro line indicators, this indicator here, I'll turn off the Bearish Pivot Pro for just a minute. The Bullish Pivot Pro, if you want to get alerts, if you want to be notified whenever you get this pivot watch label to start watching, because for me, I'm not always in the office, and so I can get this alert to sent to my phone, and I can say, oh, GOVX has, it's getting a pivot watch. I'm supposed to start watching for a break of structure, which is this blue signal. So let me go ahead and set an alert on this. Just go up to the 3 dots. We built in an alert function. So add the alert, just like this. And you can do it however you want. Once per bar, once per bar close, once per minute. Personally, I like to use the once per bar close because sometimes you'll get the signal, but then it doesn't close and stay that signal. And so that means it's not technically a signal, right? So it has to close and give the signal first. So if I'm watching for these pivot watch signals, you can set alerts on any one of our Bullish Pivot Pros to save you that headache of saying, you know what, I missed out on this trade. You don't have to miss out on a trade. You can get alerts sent to your phone, sent to your email, sent to your computer, where you can then be notified and say, you know what? Again, that's why we added these pivot watch signals. That's why we added this white pivot watch signal saying and notifying and letting you know, hey, it's time to start watching for a possible setup here. If you're trading right now and you're looking for a setup, it's time to start watching. So you don't have to be glued to the chart all day long. You can look for that, and once you get the signal, you can then go long and take advantage of that. So all of these have that built-in function, guys. So definitely utilize that and take advantage of that. I'm going to turn this off for now. Turn on the Bearish Pivot Pro. Again, just a quick recap on the Bearish Pivot Pro. It's the opposite of the Bullish Pivot Pro. It's looking for extended areas to the top side, and it's looking for resistance, dynamic resistance, right? This is going to give us some struggles. If we get above bullish, if we go below, that's bearish. A lot of our short sellers are going to be taking advantage of the action below this. So a lot of times you're going to see that it peaks out, and that's it. It's all done. So you just want to be very careful whenever you see these type of alerts. So I like to have that up. Going to get rid of this off the chart and move on here. So that's our Bearish Pivot Pro. Right now, we only have that for the 5-minute time frame. We are working on a 1-minute version, 10-minute version, and a 15-minute version right now. But again, it takes time to not only code, but then back test. So please bear with us. We will get this out as soon as possible. We have some really, really great ideas, some really great information with our back tested data that we want to implement into code. But again, it takes time, guys. So give us time. So scroll on down here, 5-minute Bullish Pivot Pro for SPY, 5-minute for Tesla. Okay, makes sense. All right, BB profit targets. This is a different indicator. Let me add this to the chart. This one was built, my son built this one and does use this quite often. He likes to trade a little bit more frequently when he's trading. I don't use this one as much myself, guys, to be honest with you. This is something that I just don't use as much myself. We will be diving into this code and making it, have a few different things here. But what you're seeing is the same idea. You're getting a flow zone here, very clear indication of where it's bullish versus bearish. This pink or magenta area, that means, okay, it's bearish. You can see the green area is bullish. Very simple, right? You can see buy and sell alerts on here. Buy and sell alerts are going to pop on the chart here, which are going to notify you, okay, it's very frequent. Buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. So a lot of our community and traders were looking for more entries and more exits. They wanted just more opportunity. Maybe they trade more frequently than I would myself. That's okay. My son and them, they can trade like that. That's absolutely fine. It works for them. Just stick to what works for you. This is going to provide more entries based on this flow zone and specifically to the flow zone. It's also going to plot these areas to the right-hand side. You can see that we have these lines and values here. This is going to give you a clear indication of where to look for possible resistance and possible targets as well. You can see a lot of these are going to be self-explanatory. So hour 3, that means this is looking for, these are going to be listed 1, 2, and 3. So hour here is 1 down below. And you can adjust the settings, guys, in any of our code. Adjust the settings by coming in here. You can adjust the line style if you want to have a different line style. You can adjust the turn them on and off. You can adjust the RSI settings. There's a lot of things that you can adjust in this indicator. I'm not going to dive too far into it because, again, I don't use this one as much myself. And we are going to be updating this one very shortly, and I'll add the information tooltips next to everything. That way it explains it as well. But you can go through this, guys. A lot of this is self-explanatory. You can turn off some of these signals. So just go through, clicking on and off, see what works for you. But this is going to be an indicator that then plots these lines and levels and lets you know that this is extended. Once we get to the 1 hour target here, that's a first target. 2, hour 2 right here. Hour 3 is up here. So you can see that 1, 2, and 3, 3 being the most extended, 1 being the least extended. So maybe I'm taking profit into 1. Maybe I'm looking for 3 as my end game or my final target. But of course, it does not guarantee that it's going to hit that level. So I want to take profit on the way up. This is going to be an indicator that's going to provide an area of interest for taking profit as well as an area for interest of taking trades. So it's going to give more frequent buys and sells. You're going to see more choppiness, especially during consolidation, like this area here, this area here as well. There will be some great signals. This is going to require you to really be buying, selling, buying, selling, buying, selling quite often, which for me, again, guys, is not really the approach that I take. I'm more selective with the trading that I do myself. But again, to each their own. Whatever works for you is what works for you. We did provide this for our members who are using this for more frequent buys and sells and want to trade off of this flow zone a little bit more, more useful there. So I'm going to delete this off the chart and quickly move on here to our next indicators. Okay, we've got the Bullish Bob confirmation strategy large cap. You can't see the full name here. Large cap. This is large cap. This is minor. This is smaller time frame. This is going to be something that's specifically for large cap names. So if I add these and they go together as the 3, and we're going to be combining these into one. So pretty soon we'll have this in one. Click them on 1, 2, 3, just like that. And you can see the descriptions here at the top. And again, if you have a layerment issue where something is not layering over the other correctly, adjust this. This is how it's going to show up. Let's click over to Tesla real quick, because again, this is not built for CING. This is not built for low float stocks. This is built for names like Tesla. You can see that it closed above this level, filled the gap to here. Now it's above this level. It needs to stay above 216.13, and it's going to possibly fill this gap. And if it starts to fade off, this is the gap that we have to the downside, right? So you can see that this is going to give you indication of support and resistance levels and lines. And of course, it's going to give you the percentage of how far the price is from that line, which is pretty much how our confirmation works as well. This right now requires 3 indicators. We're going to combine this into one. So soon this will be out as one indicator. Again, we just need more time to spend into this. But this is for large cap names, for SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, Apple, things like that. A lot of times I will use this on a if I'm trading SPY or Tesla, which I don't as often these days. But if I were to, typically I'd be trading a higher time frame, something like the 10-minute, 15-minute. So you can see that we're going to hold weight as resistance against something like this. So you can see this was a predetermined resistance. We then held weight, hit, right? Didn't close above. If we close above, we can look at that as bullish and one of many bullish signals. So the large cap indicators here, guys, all the 3 large cap, large cap, large cap, large cap. This is going to be our confirmation support and resistance for large cap names only. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these off my chart, and go to the trash can here, remove the 3 indicators. All right, moving on now. We've got the dynamic price action support and resistance. Love this indicator, guys. This is really great. I love this indicator. This again was built. This was built by my son and myself. This one I like a little bit more personally. Again, he uses the other. I like this one more personally. This one is going to give you these green zones and magenta zones, and again, give you the bullish and bearish signals. Now, clear indication, same as all of our strategies. Above a zone is bullish, below is bearish. If it's below the most recent zone, you're going to see that it's up here. It's going to say bearish at the top right-hand side. If it's above, it will say bullish. Let me see if there's one we have here. Sting is also bearish. Looking for one that's bullish. There we go. All right, GOVX is bullish. The reason that it's bullish is because, and you can see this little label up here, the reason that it says bullish is because it's above its most recent zone. The most recent zone is going to be the zone that's furthest to the right. So that's going to be this zone here. These zones are all turned on automatically for you, so you can see the back-tested results. So closed above the zone, held that zone. Okay, we got resistance. We closed above over here. Okay, held. We over here, we closed above this zone. Okay, we held. Closed above this zone. Okay, we held, right? So clear indication of where to get in and where to get out. But again, you don't have to have all these zones on. We have these zones on for you to be able to see this more frequent. If you only want to see the most recent zone, which is the most important zone that we have available, or the most recent zone is the most important if I'm trading now, right? I don't want to see these back-tested results. Double click on the indicator. Only show most recent zone. Click on that. And there you go. You now no longer see the previous zones before that. You also have these extended alerts saying that this is extended, and it's extended on the Secure Profit 4. Again, 1 being the least extended, 4 being the most extended. Let me see here. You can see this down here. Option toggle to turn off extended alerts. You can turn these off if you prefer. So myself, personally, guys, I don't have these on my chart as often, so I'll turn those off to keep it a little cleaner. So I'll turn those off just like that. So hit OK. All right, great. Now I have it a little bit cleaner. I've got my most recent zone. Now you're going to see a different zone here, this gray zone. This gray zone is an RSI zone. This is going to be a general rule of thumb zone here. This is not a zone that I typically trade aggressive around, but it is another indication of bullish or bearish sentiment. I'm looking for the green and magenta zones myself personally, but we do have these zones as well. This is a general rule of thumb that if it closes above this zone, well, that's a bullish signal based on others and other strategies. So may not be my best or favorite strategy, but I know that other traders are seeing that. Maybe I can scalp that move because I know that other traders are trying to trade that type of strategy. Maybe I know that it's not the most successful strategy, but maybe I can take advantage of the traders that are going too heavy into a size like that. I can take advantage of that. I know it sounds terrible, but that is what we're doing, guys. We're retail traders a lot of times taking advantage of price action and movement here. And if you know what you're doing, you can take advantage of a lot of them. So a gray zone is going to be more of an RSI zone. So that's a relative strength index zone. So it's a general zone that if it gets above, same idea, it's bullish. If it goes below, it's bearish. So I can trade it if it's above that zone. Great. It's just, again, same idea. General rule conditions there letting me know that above is bullish, below is bearish. I can trade that. It's not my best setup, so I don't want to go too heavy in something like that. Me personally, typically I won't trade that setup myself regardless. I'm pretty selective, but other traders may be different. Bullish and bearish signals letting you know when it's bullish, when it's bearish. Okay, we closed above that area. It is bullish. Now for me, I'm going to turn these off as well. I don't need these on my chart, so toggle on and off buy and sell alerts. And again, just go through the settings, guys. A lot of times you're going to find that the settings will have the options that you're looking for. So if you're confused or not sure why something's on there when it shouldn't be, you can do that. Now, P1 label, P2 label. P1 label is bullish, P2 label is bearish. Again, general rule of thumbs, general conditions. A P1 label is telling me that that is a bullish signal based on many others and their strategy. It may not be the strategy that I'm implementing myself, but regardless, that is a bullish signal. So if I see that, that is bullish sentiment. I like to see that when I'm in my trade on the long side. And if we see this, opposite is true, bearish signal. Doesn't mean it's just going to drop from here. Doesn't mean it's just going to shoot up from here. So it just means that that is a signal based on many others and their strategy. Double click on the bullish signal. Double click on the pivot watch, or excuse me, the zone. You can change the settings. Same idea, volume requirement. You can change that. Let's see. We can go down here. We can change the color of the zones if you want to change the color of the zone. They will change dynamically based on where the price action is. Same with this here. But you can still choose the color that you want it to change to dynamically. So if you don't want to see green and whatever, you can come in here and say, I want to see it blue, right? You can hit that as blue. You can hit that as purple. You can do it whatever you prefer, right? I'll cancel here to go back to green. So go through this, guys. Zone extension to the right, same idea. Zone border width, if you want to have a border around your zone, you can do that as well to clearly see that. Trend label options, again, I turn these off for the buy and sell. The trend label options, you can have these on as well. Let's see. These are the RSI, so if you want to have the trend zone for the RSI or that gray zone, different requirements, you can do that. We've got it set to 20 and 85, so that's going to be a very general rule of thumb. Let's see. The show RSI zone, if you don't want to see that gray area or gray zone, click that off. You can turn it off. Okay, great. I'll leave it on. It's not really an eyesore. I don't mind having that on. Pivot zone requirement. So you can see for the pivot zone, you can change the volume for the pivot zones themselves. That's the P1, P2 alert. You can turn those off. If you don't want to have those on your chart, turn them on and off. It's up to you. The extended alerts, letting you know that the price is extended, right? You can have these on, lets you know that, okay, the price is becoming extended. Maybe wait for a cool off before getting in. Price is extended. Wait for a cool off before getting in, right? I don't need these. I have other alerts, although you can use these as well. Really depends on you guys. We have so many options on here because we want you to be able to customize these as well. We've got these as well. Let me see. If I turn these on, just like that, you'll see now we've got different alerts here as well. And you can see that it says 5-minute bearish signal options. Note, alert strength 1 through 3. 3 being the strongest pivot. So that means if you see a 3 on the number here, so hour 2, that means on the hourly time frame it's becoming extended. So even though we're on a 15-minute time frame, the hourly time frame is becoming extended. And let me switch to a 1-minute time frame because often I will use this on a 1 minute myself, but that doesn't mean you have to use it on a 1 minute time frame, guys. You can use this on other time frames. So if I zoom this out, you can see that you have the results here, and you have this area of value. This area is now looking at a higher time frame, the hour, and saying that this is extended on an hourly time frame. So it may want to get a breather for quite a bit of time because again, it's pulling, it's extending here. And you can see these alerts were helpful because if you zoom out, you can see that this was an area that it definitely extended. And if you're holding your trade and waiting for those alerts, these are the first time you're seeing those alerts, which is pretty impressive for this indicator. So double click on that, and we will be adjusting the look of it and all that. So we will be making some changes. So you can have that on or off. I'm going to turn mine off. Again, I have other ways of determining that is the area of value. Some traders prefer to have those on, and some traders don't. So it's really, again, it's a personal preference. It's completely up to you. And you can see a GOVX on a 1 minute chart is bearish instead of on the 5 minute chart. So if you guys notice that as well, each time frame will show you something different. So if I go back to GOVX, on a 1 minute time frame, this is bearish because it's below this zone. On a 15-minute time frame, it is bullish because it's above this zone. You guys see that? So each time frame will provide different results, and you can experiment and use this on any time frame that you prefer. So a 5 minute time frame is saying it is bullish. The last zone, which I'm not seeing here, is somewhere, but it is saying that it is bullish. So maybe it's a zone that's just being hidden. But regardless, means it's above its last zone. So you can switch different time frames. So let's move on, guys. I don't want to spend too much time on each individual indicator. I want to cover everything. Below this, we've got the key level spotter. Guys, key level spotter is great. If you add this to your chart, key level spotter is going to look for really, really important levels of interest for many traders. You can see that right now I have mine loaded up a certain way. Let me double click on this and reset this and hit OK. So this is how it's going to load up for you guys. So this is how typically it loads up. Looks like a mess, right? There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of signals. There's a lot of options you have available in this indicator. So there's a lot of options that you can utilize here. What I use mostly if I'm using this indicator myself is I'm going to use these lines and levels on the right hand side, which is going to be pretty useful for a lot of members. What you're going to see is a lot of lines and levels here on the side. They're all listed and they tell you what they are. So let me blow these up. If you double click on the indicator on the line, any one of the lines, or double click on the indicator itself, you can open it up and you're going to see a whole list of options, right? So this is the VWAP line. This is the 1 minute 9 EMA line. This is the 1 minute 20 EMA line. This is the 1 minute 200 EMA line. So you can go through this and you'll see that you can change the color. You can change the each of the values, or excuse me, the style of the line, the width of the line, the offset to the left, offset to the right. So you can push the line left, push it right. You can change a lot of different things. You can change the size. So for now, let's go through and we'll turn on the 1 minute 20 EMA. Maybe that's an important level or line that I'm looking at. Well, maybe I want to, let's see how this says large. And you can see that it made this signal larger here. Maybe the line I want to see larger as well. I'll put this to 5. Hit OK. Or just click off. And look at that line. Now it's larger. Right, so you can go through and adjust this. Now at the bottom of this this code, guys, and you can see the 1 day 200 EMA, there's a whole bunch of lines and levels that you can add or subtract to your chart. This is really great if you're an EMA trader. If you like trading different EMAs, you like to, if you want to, if you want to see what the 200 or the 4-hour 200 EMA is, or the 1 hour 200 EMA is, you can do that without having to switch to that time frame. That's the point of this indicator. So you don't have to switch from time frame to time frame, but still get that value. You can see we also have the oversold line, the buy zone line. So this is great because this is predicting that line. So if you hit OK here, you'll see we have an area of value down here that's listed as the buy zone, the oversold level, the bounce watch level. What this is telling us is this is the area, if it starts to dip, if it's going to extend too far one way, this is the area it could possibly extend to. This is on a 1 minute time frame. The opposite is true as well. Go to the top. If we start to gap up, maybe I want to take profit if we get to the overbought level, to the profit target level, or the short watch level, or all three, right? So once we start entering those 3 lines and levels, that's an area of interest and resistance that I want to be careful of. So if I double click again on this indicator, scroll on down to the bottom, below all of these lines and levels that you can adjust, which is really great. You've got the also have the halt levels, so you can see where the stock is going to be halting. And it doesn't always halt there, but typically that is a rule of thumb. It should be halting once it reaches that level. Sometimes we'll see it not halt and just blow right through it, which is pretty rare. But oftentimes when it hits that level or starts to get just above that level, we'll see it halt. You can do a trailing stop. So you can come in here and put a trailing stop level. So you can put a trailing stop loss right here. This will automatically adjust with whatever the price is. So if you're getting in at this current price, the trailing stop loss is going to be 732. So you can have that onto your chart. And if you don't want to have that on, you can toggle it off. So each one of these will toggle that line off of your chart. And I'll toggle it off for now. I'm not going to use that. Manual ATR, take stop loss here. This is going to be something that you can manually put in here. So you can say, okay, turn this on, and you can put in the price that you got in. Say you got in at 750. Okay, hit 750, enter there, and you should see that on the chart in a moment here. There it is, trailing stop loss with an M, meaning manual, means you put in your price. 740 is the stop loss. So if I'm in at 750, based on the ATR value here, it's going to be a stop loss of that. You can increase that value if you want to multiply the ATR value for your stop loss. It's up to you. Text signals, that's going to be these signals on the chart itself. So you can see over here, these text signals, they look a little small for you guys probably. You can turn them on and off. If you want specific ones only turned on, you can do that. We have them all turned on automatically. Go through, turn on the ones that you want to see. Maybe you want to see the 9 EMA crossing the VWAP, you can do that. Maybe you want to see a 9 EMA crossing the 20 EMA only, you can do that as well. So you can go through and turn on any one of these signals. That's going to be these signals over here. And let me see, I believe we can make these larger as well. Yes, right here. So you can go to large, and it's going to look crazy right here being so large, but you guys can see that this is now oversold. This is our buy zone. That means it crossed our buy zone. That means that buy zone level that I was going over on the lines here. So this buy zone, that means we crossed it here. That means if you're looking for that buy zone for an entry, that was the entry, right? There's your oversold, enters oversold. There's your buy zone. Okay, great. Some of these are stacked. You'll see that if you have too many on here, they will stack. So we're getting some stacked ones here, and that's why it's going to look all wonky. So just try turning some of these off. Again, they are all on to begin with. 920 cross, that is a bullish signal to many strategies. A lot of these are going to be common strategies that traders will use. They're not everything. They're not something that I always use myself. But that being said, this is a signal that's bullish to other traders. Maybe that's a signal I can take advantage of scalping because they're taking it. Here's the opposite. Here's an overbought signal right up here. You can see that it's behind the candle. Overbought. Okay, profit target. That means it hit those lines and levels, saying that it hit the overbought level, hit the profit target. And again, you can delete all of these if you prefer to. So let me back out of this a little bit. And let's continue here. So yes, it looks crazy right now, guys. Again, please just go through, adjust whatever you want to see. They're all turned on right now. You don't have to have those all on. This is because we have many traders in our community with many different approaches. Some like to see the 30-minute 200 EMA. Some like to see the 4 hour. Some like to see the daily. It's up to you. You can adjust this, and you can see that. Now, if I go to the let me see something here. I want to see where the daily EMA is here. Okay, so the 200-day EMA is right here. Okay, so the 200-day EMA is right here, if you guys can see that. So 200-day EMA is 378. That means if I go in here and I type in EMA, and I go down to moving average exponential, click that to my chart, double click on this, and go to a 200 for the length, hit OK. Now you're not going to see it on here, because right now that length is based on the time frame you're on. So this is a 200 EMA for the 1 minute time frame, which means, let's see where that is. That's this blue line up here. So that's this blue line right here. So this blue line is our 200 EMA, right? This blue line. As you can see, it's equivalent to our line right here, the 200 EMA. So if you'd rather see it as a line, a very clear indication in a horizontal line with the value and the percentage gap from the price to it, you can do that. You don't need to have this on your chart, and you have multiple things here. But if we're looking for the 200 EMA on the daily, as you can see, if you have that on there, you're not seeing the daily 200 EMA. If I could find it here. There it is. So the 200 EMA on the daily time frame is 378, right? Let me go over here. Forgive me. Give me 1 sec, guys. I'll get it on the chart. The reason the 200 EMA is so far away is because the price gapped up so much. So there it is right there. So 200 EMA is 378. Let's keep that value in mind, 378. So when I switch to a daily time frame, that should be the same. It should still be 378. So let me switch to a daily time frame. And there it is, 378. So that 200 EMA is 378, and you can see the blue line is now equivalent to our line, right? So you don't need to be on the daily time frame to still see the 200-day EMA, which a lot of traders use that 200-day EMA for possible predictions, right? Price predictions, things like that. So that's the whole point of this indicator here, guys, the key level spotter. You can set the lines, levels, many lines, many levels here, and you can set the cross values as well. And you can change a lot of this once you have it set to your default, what you want to see, save as a default. All right, so let's move on here to our, and I know I'm taking up some time, guys. I apologize for that, but I do want to cover everything real quick here. And again, if you guys have any extra questions on top of this, then we do have a private lessons section as well, or we will be putting out some more information. All right, so we've got, let's see, we're down here, Oversold Spotter, and we'll go through these fairly quickly, a few of these. So Oversold Spotter, back to the 1 minute time frame. You can, again, adjust this to any time frame that you're on, whatever you prefer. It's still loading up. All right, the Oversold Spotter here. Let me double click on this and make sure I have the same as you guys. So labels need to be turned on. If it's not on for you, go to the style. You can turn those on or off. I'm going to keep those on for now. So GOVX, what are we seeing here? We're seeing an Oversold Spotter, right? It's spotting when it's oversold, or excuse me, yes, oversold and overbought. So it's actually an overbought and oversold spotter, which is a little upgraded here. Overbought level, red area on the chart. So you can see the chart color will change based on that area. It also plots a label and lets you know this is overbought. So that means it's extended one way. Okay, so we look for a pullback. There's our pullback. Same idea. It is now extended. There's our pullback. Okay, great. It's extended. It pulled back a little bit, continued here, and continued to go higher. Let's see if we can find any green zones. Here's a green zone. So very simple, right? Green zone. Change the area of the background of the chart, and it's giving you a label here. Enters oversold. This is looking for a bounce. So oversold means that it's sold basically too much, right? It's just selling down too much. Overbought is the opposite, right? So it's very simple. Overbought means it's extended to the high side. Oversold means it's extended to the low side. One way or the other is extreme, and you can see a pivot from there oftentimes. Here's a pivot, okay? And extreme overbought, here's a pivot. Right, you can see a clear indication. So just to keep it very simple, the red areas means it's extended to the high side. Green areas means it's extended to the low side. Right, you can look for bullish sentiment, bearish sentiment. Same idea. Most of our indicators you should be able to set an alert, so you can set these alerts to save you time. That way you can be notified. And you can do this with many of our indicators, guys. Check that out, the alert function. So very, very simple, basic indicator here. Add this to your chart. Use it in conjunction with other signals, and you can find yourself a really nice strategy. Areas of value are going to be green. Areas of interest for a short trade or low side is going to be red. It's not always going to give you that area. So, of course, you want to have these other indicators to help aid in entry and exit, because you can see very clear indication. Anytime we see that it is green, that means it could pop to the high side. Anytime it's red, it could drop to the low side. Now, you can change the time frame. Each time frame will show you something different. Here's a 5 minute time frame. Okay, we're getting extreme zones here, extreme zones. Here's our oversold, green area on the chart, red area on the chart, red area on the chart, right? So red area means it's extreme extended. Maybe it needs a breather, cool off. It does not mean that the move is over. There is nothing that can predict whether the move is completely over or not. That's why we trade confirmation. That's why we trade with our levels. That's why we trade with our dynamic support and resistance. Close below our most recent zones are going to be bearish. So it's going to be on you to of course know that. 10-minute time frame, okay. Different time frame, different results. Enters oversold, bounce from there, okay. Enters extended right here, pulled back a little bit. Maybe this is consolidation. Entry areas, okay. We're extending again, pull back, right. So very simple. So you guys can go through that, and you should be able to change the colors as well in the inputs. So this is based on the RSI. So if you want to change that RSI value, you can do that. This is an RSI oversold and overbought spotter. Very simple indicator, but very useful if you're using them. Going to delete this off the chart and move on. Let's see. Next we have the confirmation table. So the tables, guys, are really cool, and I'll just go over these quickly. This is how mine loads up. Yours may load up differently. Again, you'll see that the candles are stacked on top of it. If that's an issue, click on this visual order. Bring to front. There you go. Okay. So what this is doing is letting us know of the volume. It's letting us know how many major reds in the past has there been. Let's switch to a 1 minute time frame. And it's letting us know how many major reds there is out of the last 200. You can change the settings if you want to look back for reds further back. You can put 500, hit OK. Now this is looking over 500, and it's counting 3 major reds. We are going to be making an adjustment here. We're going to be changing this. We're going to be implementing this to our dynamic. So this is going to be removed here soon, and we're going to integrate it into one of our other indicators. So we're going to still have this indicator, this checklist, but we're going to integrate it into another. That way we save some space. So eventually it's going to be used into our dynamic price signals sooner than later. So it's going to be in our dynamic price signals down here, which you'll see. So this is a checklist. It's basically going over and letting us know what's going on here. So it's going to let you know, is it a bounce watch or is it extended? So it will tell you that, and it will let you know here if it is a bounce watch or if it is extended. You'll see an alert in here. The total major reds, 3 out of the last 500 candles had major reds, which means it pulled back. It was a major red candle, a major loss there. So that means we want to be aware of that. So if we're trading, we want to be careful. It's also telling us the largest major red. So the largest major red of those 3 was a pullback of 5%. What that means is that if I'm trading this, I need to compensate for a possible 5% pullback in major red candle, right? Because it's showing that it has those. This is the greatest major red. Sometimes you'll see this 15 major red or 15% major red or even greater. Let's see here. The vertical trend. So it's letting us know if there's a vertical trend as well. So these are 2 major reds. So it's basically a checklist here, guys. It'll give you alerts based on this. It's very self-explanatory. It's a chart table here that's going to give you some information. The volume is going to be for the current volume, the current candle. So it's not saying that it's 24,000 shares for the entire day of GOVX. It's saying that this last candle was 24,000 shares. If I hover over the candle, you'll see the volume up here. 24,026 on that. There's 24,026. There you go. So that's what we're seeing there on the volume. So it's matching up with the last candle. If the volume is, a lot of these will change color based on the information that is provided. You'll see that. Go further down on the list here, consecutive candles. So if there is consecutive bullish candles in a row, so more than 4 or 5 green candles in a row, it will let you know and notify you that. So it's going to let you know that's a high risk type of setup. Float size, going to let you know the float size as well. This is according to TradingView. Always check this to our trade idea scanners as well, because it's not always accurate. Let's see, float size, 5.21 million share float. If I click the details tab on the side, it should match up with the float size here. So let's see what we have. So shares float 5.22, so 5.2 million and 5.217. So that is accurate to this. So it's showing us the float size there, as you can see. So it's just handy so you don't have to have the details open. Closest major resistance is going to be 832. So that means that the closest major resistance is going to be 832. That's the closest level of resistance that we're looking at now for major resistance. We're going to be implementing this into other code and into our other strategies. So this is going to be removed as a single indicator and will be implemented into others. So you can just know that. So delete this off the chart. The other tables here, we've got the confirmation strategy trend table. So this is going to be for trends. So if you're a trend trader, this is going to be for trends. So this is going to be a 1-minute trend, 5-minute trend, 10-minute trend. This is different than our confirmation. So this is going to be more for a trend trader. So if you're looking for, is it still bullish on a 5-minute trend? Yes, it is. Is it still bullish on a 10-minute trend? Yes, it is. Is it still bullish on a 1-minute trend? Yes, it is. So maybe you're using the 5-minute and 10-minute trends to give you the sentiment and the value of that stock, saying that it is still bullish on these other time frames, but on a 1-minute time frame, it's pulling back. Well, maybe I'm looking for my entry on the 1-minute time frame. So you can see that, just a quick checklist. It will tell you if it's extended or not. It will tell you if it's continuation watch or not. So checklist there again. We may be this one we may keep because this again is a trend zone. So let me remove this, and you can go into the settings and change some of the settings. Go through them, and you can change some of the colors and settings as well if you prefer to see different colors. So I'm going to delete this off the chart and move on here. Let's see. We've got the confirmation strategy trend table for large cap. So large cap. So this is going to be for something like Tesla or Apple or Nvidia, something like that, right? You can change the location. So if you don't want the location over here, you can go to the label position and go to top right, hit OK. And you can see we can move it around. So we have, this is showing that there is recent resistance. It's showing that it is a 10-minute price is bullish. 10-minute trend is bearish. So the price action is bullish right now in the 10-minute time frame. So let's go to a 10-minute time frame here. So it is showing that it is bullish on a 10-minute time frame for the price action, but for a trend it is not. For a 30-minute trend, it is bullish. 4-hour trend, it is bullish. So wider time frames, it is bullish. Daily trend, it is not. It is bearish. Weekly trend is bullish. Monthly trend is bullish. So it's looking at other time frames, and it's going to notify you of the trend on that time frame. So you can use this to help aid in basically giving a quick analysis on other time frames for large cap names. So this is going to be a large cap checklist and a large cap trend table for things like Tesla, Apple, NVIDIA. So if you trade large cap, it can be very helpful. All right, confirmation, support, and resistance. My baby. This is my love here, guys. This is what I love to trade. Confirmation is my go-to strategy. It's my favorite strategy. The reason for it, let me go back to Sing here. The reason for it is because it's going to let me know and notify me of the very, very strong areas of value. So it's giving me, there's a number of things going on here. And just to give a quick rundown of what's going on is we're getting these lines and levels on the chart, right? This is going to be our support and resistance. The way I look at it, very simplistic way here, white lines hold the most weight as support and resistance. Purple lines hold the second most weight as support and resistance. And our red dotted lines, which you don't see any on this chart, we do have some up here, are going to be my third and least heavily weighted lines and levels. That being said, they still hold weight. I will still trade around them. I just will adjust size depending on what level or line I'm trading around. So the color of the line will dictate the size of my trade. Now, what we're looking at here is the lines and levels from Friday and from the day before. And this, of course, I'll go to a 1-minute chart. So you can see this on a 1-minute chart, which is great because you can switch from any time frame. You're going to see the same lines and levels, and that's very important. So a 1-minute time frame, what we're looking at is the price action. As we close above these lines and levels, each line is acting as resistance. This line is acting as resistance. Once we close above this line, I can look at the next line as a possible target. And I look at this line to then hold. So if I want my stop loss, I put it under this line. If I enter here, I put my stop loss here. I'm looking for here as a target. Okay, took profit. I'm into my target. Closed above, closed below. I'm either out of my position or my stop is still here. Okay, closed above this line. Hit this line. Okay, we closed above this line. Faded off. Now, you're not seeing the red dotted lines from this time frame or this time of day because we've already blown through those. So those have been removed. Dynamically, this will adjust and update these lines and levels based on what we see information. But a lot of this is based on more extended conditions like the wider time frame, so historical data. So that means that they're going to, right now, you may not see the red dotted lines, but when we're trading during this session, it may have had those red dotted lines. You guys can check that by using either the replay mode or you can go to our chart that was added the other day in this. So same idea, guys. Close above bullish, close below bearish. Now, until we get above this plotted zone, it is not technically going to be confirmation. So if you're trading any of these lines and levels below that zone, that's okay, but that is not confirmation. Let's make that clear. Confirmation is looking for any price action above our zone. If we close above this zone, that is confirmation. That's when we're looking for a squeeze. Now, if I go to our key level channel in Discord and I look at our first key level for Sing, C-I-N-G, guess what? It was $10.20. So if I plot that, let me put the little price label here. 1020 is all the way right here, right there. Okay. So this purple line and level is 1020. I'm sure we had other lines and levels in here as we gapped up. I believe I can see here in our chat, we had CING 1020, then $11. Then we had CING at 1644. Every time I add a key level, what it's doing is filling the gap. Every time we fill a gap, I look at the next key level for confirmation. I then no longer look at that gap as attractive. So these are going to provide clear indication of this is a nice gap, this is a nice gap, this is a nice gap, right? It's giving us predetermined support and resistance levels. As we close over a resistance, that level should act as support. As we close below a support level, that level in resistance or a line should act as resistance. So very clear indication of where to get in, where to get out, right? Above a level, I can get in. Below a level, I have to get out. Now I'm looking at these as predetermined resistance levels for profit target as well. You can see that this had a level at 2016. We also look at half and whole dollar. So 2050 is going to be like right about here. And I'll draw a line just to have that as a visual. And we can see that we closed above this line. Sure, that's bullish. Sure, that would be a signal, right? But I count 1, 2, 3, 4 green bars. This is a bullish vertical trend, which if we have the volume, the bullish vertical trend on there, I'm sure we see that. We'll see that after. But this is a higher risk setup. Great. That's fine. I either adjust or avoid. Well, I adjusted. I took a loss here. Man, that stinks. I took a loss, right? Nobody wants to take a loss. Well, guess what? I'm glad I took the loss because I'm no longer a bag holder. I don't have to hold this. Now, I can't sit here and say if this curls up to $30 on Monday, I can't sit there and say, oh man, I sold for a loss here. I should have held it, you know, yada, 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 whatever. Because that's hindsight trading. That's not how it works. Dynamic trading is going to be, I get in here, I get back out here. I get in here, I get out here. So for now, our dynamic zone and our confirmation key level is now plotted for us. It's up here. Our first area of interest is going to be at the top of this move, which is right there at the 2083. Above 2083, we've got room to $24, keeping in mind that we have half and whole dollar, right? So it doesn't plot the half and whole for you. You have to keep that in mind yourself. So keep that in mind, half and whole, half and whole. Clear indication of where to get in and where to get out. If we get above $24, we have a large gap from $24 to $38. That does not necessarily mean that we're filling that gap. That means I can trade in this area half and whole dollar, half and whole dollar, half and whole dollar. This being above our confirmation key level has a better chance of squeezing, giving us continuation, giving us bullish momentum and less choppy price action than something that's trading below that confirmation key zone. So if you see you pull something up and it's below the key zone, you can expect choppy price action. If you see it starting to gap and close above the confirmation key zone, as long as we have other conditions met, like volume, not a bullish vertical trend, not a cluster of resistance, things like that, if those red flags have not been met, then we can look at that as a high quality type of trade and possible breakout. So that is our confirmation support and resistance. Very self-explanatory here. Plots, lines, and levels. Very interesting. What we're looking for is a close over these levels paired with volume. Close above is bullish. Close below is bearish. Okay, if I get in at 1021, I'm holding. Well, if you held from 1021, let's see. This is around 1021 here. If you're holding from this close over and hold, you're looking at 89%, almost $10 per share. Beautiful, beautiful move. Now, of course, if you're getting at 1021, stop level is below 1021. If you're getting at $12, stop level is below $12. Some of this will be choppy and will require you to trade more frequent. That's just how it is. Low float stocks are like that. Some traders don't have the availability. Some traders are trading all day. Some traders have a time slot that they're trading for. It's really up to you. But this is going to be very simple. Close above our lines and levels, it's bullish. Close below is bearish. It plots the confirmation key zone. If it's above, it's going to be green. If it's below, it's red. Right now, it's red, acting as resistance. Once we get there, it could act as resistance. Want to see a close above this zone before we're getting in. Now, I look for a close above the zone to then hold, so $24 would be the close above that zone. But however, we have not filled this gap. If we had already filled this gap, I would be concerned. We have not filled this gap. So technically speaking, the confirmation key level for this stock on Monday will be $20.50, which is the half dollar right there, and $21, which is going to be right there, which is the whole dollar test. It is higher risk because it's not a major weighted level. It's a half and whole dollar, half and whole dollar. So I will have to make adjustments. It is getting a little bit high in price, around $21. That being said, doesn't matter what you think. What matters is price action and volume. Close above $21. Doesn't matter whether I think it's extended or not. That is confirmation. That is continuation. That is bullish momentum. That is what we're looking for. So that's going to plot the lines and levels automatically for you. You can see that if I turn this off, it does it for you. Now you can go into the settings and you can change the colors of the lines if you prefer. You can change the style of the lines if you prefer. You can go to, we added this for us. This was a request from our community. Adding the show previous day high, turn that on. Show previous day low, turn that on. Show previous day close, turn that on. And show the most recent open, turn that on. So hit OK. And what you'll see, and this is going to be probably further down here, is these blue lines and levels. If you hover over, you'll see previous day low. That was our previous day low from the day before. Okay, that was our previous intraday low right there. So that's acting as a possible support. Up here, you can see 680. 680 is going to be our previous day high. Okay, maybe that's an area of value. You can see that that was the high from the previous day. And guess what? It closed above, held the level. That was a great area of interest, right? So maybe that's something that you want to add to your chart. You can do that in the indicator just by clicking on the indicator itself, going down to these options and turning these on and off and turn whatever color you prefer. You can turn off the key zone. So if you don't want to see the key zone, you can turn this off. So if it's becoming something that you just don't really use in your own trading, that's fine. You don't have to have it in your chart. Just click that and it now turns off the key zone. Turn this back on. Key zone's right there. Turn it off. There you go. You can change the color and the opacity of the key zone. You can change it how far left and how far right it goes. You can change that as well. So if you want to push this further right, push it further left, you can do that. Down here, chart signals. This is going to be for our bullish and bearish chart signals. That's for our key zone. You don't have to have this. This is going to be for if it gets above the key zone or below the key zone, and that's up to you if you want to have those signals as well. So I'll turn this off and right-click, reset. And it looks like a mess sometimes, guys, but that's because a lot of times a lot of these levels are going to be cluster of resistance levels. So having too many areas of value, that's a cluster of resistance. Expect choppy price action. So very simple explanation there for our confirmation support resistance. Delete that. All right, let's move on. And the confirmation, dynamic price signals version 3. Love this indicator. I use this every single day. You guys will see this when I upload a chart. What this is showing now is going to be those pivot zones automatically for you. This is very similar to our extreme zone. So if you don't want to have both zones, you can turn them off. Key notes right here. In the key notes, this is going to show you. I'll blow this up. You can turn this larger. There we go. Make it larger so you can see. I'll turn it to huge so you can see it even better. What this is saying is that there's recent resistance spotted. Expect choppy price action, reduce size, tighten your stop loss, lotto size or avoid, and you can use the 3 dots to set your alerts. Okay, so that means you can click on the 3 dots here and add alerts to your to this indicator just by doing this here. If multiple alerts, exits a bearish zone, enters a bearish zone, enters extended watch, and you have different alerts that you can set on here. These are going to be different signals on the chart, so whichever you prefer, you can set that. The keynotes are letting you know of what's going on here. It's letting you know that it is, some of these are extreme conditions. Some of these are going to be resistance. Some of these are going to be choppy price action. We're expecting choppy price action here. The grayed out areas are correlating with this list. I don't use the keynotes myself, so I'm going to turn this off just by toggling on and off, just like that. And what you can see is if you go to the right-hand side here, what I will say, guys, is a problem is that for some reason, I'm not sure why, we've got to fix this in the code. If I turn this and I want to have this on the left-hand side, label position to bottom left, and I do that like that, you'll see it disappears. It's actually being hidden behind our keynotes. So move the keynotes label position to top right. So we're just swapping the sides, and you'll see it pops back up. So if you want to move that, you can do that. If they layer on top of each other, they do hide each other. I'm not sure why. We need to fix the code on that, but it's just a pain in the butt. But for now, guys, that's the solution. Just change that like that. Label size, let's make it huge so you guys can see it better. What this is doing, again, is giving us clear indication. This is my checklist. So this is on watch for continuation. Yes, it is on watch for continuation. This is showing a micro float. So according to TradingView, it's showing that this is a micro float right there. You can see the float size. Okay, great. This is showing that the major resistance is 2083. Okay, that's all the way up here, 2083. Recent resistance is 2083. Recent high is 2083. So we can see, okay, it's letting us know, even though I'm looking at the chart over here for a possible trade, I can understand very easily that 2083 is recent resistance. Means that, yeah, I'm getting it at 390, but this is not near its highs, right? So recent highs are being shown, which means recent bag holders were expecting choppy price action. You can change the color of your bearish alerts here. This is like a checklist. You can change the colors here. So bearish, just like this. Hit that. You can change the color to red. You can change it to yellow. Whatever stands out, whatever you prefer. I have it set to gray. So you can change that however you'd like. You can change the alerts on the chart. So we are getting alerts whenever something happens here. We can see that we're getting a little check mark. Let me turn this to visual order to the front. Just like that. All right, visual order to the front. We've got this now pivot zone alert here. Okay, that's a zone. Close above is bullish. It's a little check mark. If you want to change that from the check mark, you can have a little money sign or money face there, right? You can change this to whatever you want. So go in here and you can change that setting just like this. You can have it just like that. However you prefer, you can change the setting to wherever, to however you'd like. And we'll just keep it like that. Same with the X's. Guys, if you notice too, here's another really great tip on this. The X and the point here is going to let you know that we are, these are extended options or extended conditions. So hover over this condition here. It's going to give you a little tooltip. It says price enters extended zone, start to secure profit. If you're not in the position, consider adjusting due to the conditions shown. So if I'm looking for an entry, maybe I'm looking for it to cool off first. This is our exit signal. This is a sell signal, secure profit, watch for a close over of this zone for possible continuation. Okay, this is my sell. I'm glad I got out. Close, 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 right? Needs to stay above. It's not holding. It's not holding. All of a sudden, it did get a little pop. So we're seeing these little pops from these pivot zones, but they're not giving us continuation. And that's because we're not above our most recent pivot zone resistance, which is going to be all the way up here, 2083. So very self-explanatory. I love this indicator, guys. I use it all the time. Go to the bottom here before I lose my voice. We've got the large cap swing signals, large cap swing strategy. They're going to be the same, so we're going to be getting rid of the swing signals. The swing strategy does the same thing, so we'll just go over this one. So this is, again, for large cap. Let's go to Tesla. You're going to see when you add this to your chart, it's going to give you down at the bottom the percentage profitable, how many trades it's taken. It's going to give you a little strategy tester here and let you know how many trades it's taken and how successful it is. This is not built for a 1 minute time frame. If you look at the indicator, you'll see this is for, well, it doesn't say here, but it says in the description if you click on that. Go to the weekly time frame, and you can see the results 100% accurate on Tesla, TSLA. Only over 9 trades, though, so of course you want to factor that in. So it could, of course, have a time where it doesn't give us that type of result. But that being said, for the results that we have here, pivot zone, there's your long option. Plots the pivot zone. I can turn this off. You guys will see how it plots everything on the chart for us. You can see that it keeps loading up at the bottom there as well. You can look at the results of each one of our strategies, and you can change some of the settings around. So if you can go in here and you can double click, you go to the properties, and you can say, okay, I've got a $20,000 account, right? Small account here. Go to US dollar. I'm taking $10,000 per entry, so 10,000, and it is US dollars. Hit OK. All right, it's 100% accurate. If you had a $20,000 account, you would make $23,000 on these 9 trades. So on the 9 trades and opportunities that it has provided, you'd make $23,000. You'd have a max drawdown of $2,300. So of your $20,000, at one point you would be down $2,300, almost $2,400. But at one point you would be up $23,000. So your $20,000 account would soon be $43,000 if trading this strategy and only the strategy. This is Tesla on the weekly. Switch from different tickers here. So let's check out SPY on the weekly time frame. 92% accurate, less profitable. Drawdown here, less profitable, but we can see 14 trades here, and it is less profitable, but you can see that it did give us some nice opportunity. You can go into the settings of the inputs here. You can change the profit target. So maybe you want to take a profit for a different reason. Maybe instead of this is taking profit after a number of candles, so it's 5, you can change that to 10, and you'll see different results down here. Watch as I change it to 10. You see down here. Now it has a less profitable approach here. Let me switch to Tesla. So if we go to Tesla, you can see that if I go to 5 candles, if we're selling after 5 candles after entry, we're seeing that we're getting a 100% accurate strategy. If we change this to hold it for 10, and these are weekly candles, so 10 weeks, you want to hold it for 10 weeks, it's less profitable, less percentage profitable, but actually more profitable in the long run. It's actually a higher profitable trade for net profit. So that's actually interesting there. And you can play around with this. Maybe you want to hold it for 25 weeks, right? Hold it for 25 weeks. Guess what? Look at the profit on that. $63,000 on your 20,000 share account. It is less percentage profitable. Still has a low number of trades, which is a concern. So we do want to factor that in. But as you can see, max drawdown 3,383. If you have your clear indication of this pivot zone and your stop is going to be down here and you're holding for this long, for what do we say here, for 25 weeks, then you can see you can have a massive win there, right? It's amazing. But if you have a stop loss in place, of course, you're protecting yourself in the event that it goes against you as well. All right, moving on. That is our large cap swing strategy. That is for large cap names only. Quick scalp strategy. This is going to be for low float names. So switch back over to Sing. And we'll go to a 1 minute time frame. So we're going to use this on a 1 minute time frame. Same idea at the bottom. You'll see the strategy tester will tell you it has 69 trades total. 72% of those were profitable. 1.12 profit factor per each share. And you can see that you're getting $3.22 on this here. But that's because again we have have to adjust the settings. So go into the settings, double click on your indicator, go to properties. Let's change this again. We'll just do a $20,000 account. So 20,000 US dollars. We'll change this to you're doing a $5,000 smaller type of buy. US dollars, hit OK, and you can see everything has adjusted. Now on your $20,000 account, you would have had a max drawdown of about $2,500. This is 72% accurate, 69 trades total, and almost $4,000 you were getting on your account. This is over the course of the 69 trades. You can see multiple buys, sells, right? So you can adjust this, same idea. If you go into this, it's looking for inputs. It's looking for a take profit percentage. This is set at 5%. Adjust this number. You can go to 10% and click off. We'll see the numbers down here adjust. Okay, we adjusted 66% accurate, less trades. Okay, let's go to 2%. Quick scalps, 96 entries, 1,400. So I think maybe it's optimized with 5% on this ticker. Now, when you switch from ticker to ticker, you're going to see different results. And what this is also doing is going to give you the watch area, the buy signal, and the stop loss signal. So this is going to be the stop loss area. So it's a clear indication. If there's a buy, it's giving you the take profit area. This is where you want to take profit, and the sell area right here. So this is going to be your 5% above that buy signal. So that's what it's going to be set to. So if I adjust this to 10%, you'll see that this will adjust. Watch. There you go. Okay. So you can see that. Now you can change the volume requirement as well. We'll go back to 5%. Okay, 69 trades. Let's change the volume requirement. We want to see at least 5,000 shares to take any of these trades. Okay, now we only have 13 entries because it eliminated a lot of those low volume type of entries. We have a better profit target now, or excuse me, profit factor here, and we have a almost $2,000 per share we've gained on this one from, or excuse me, $2,000 on the total account here, net profit. So that's really great. So you can change the settings here. So hit OK. I'll hit cancel actually. And again, watch signals, buy signal, stop loss area, take profit. If it goes below stop loss, it's pretty obvious that's where you want to stop out. It also plots the stop loss top right to make it easier for you to see that. All right, indicators. Let me delete this one off the chart. And I think we're getting to the bottom here. SPY daily strategy. Let's add that to our chart. Daily time frame here. This is not for Sing. You can see a 66% accurate on Sing, which is nice to see, but it's not for this ticker here. We'll go to SPY. It's designed specifically for SPY. And you'll see that it's 76% accurate on SPY, 51 trades total. And let's see if we up this account size. We'll go to properties. We'll do, again, $20,000 account for an example, US dollars. We'll do a $10,000 buy-in, and it's going to be US dollars as well. Hit OK. All right, this $20,000 account has moved up $11,000 based on this strategy here. And this is a 3.75 profit factor here. This is really great. Max drawdown of $2,500. That's not bad. This is great. An average trade of $221. You can get an idea of your average trade, what you're getting out of it. You can get your idea percentage as well. So if you want to set a level 2% up, so you can say, okay, I'm selling at 2%. Let's adjust the settings here. Let's go into the inputs. Bars for exit. This is however many candles. This is a daily strategy. So 10 days later, you're exiting. Let's go to 25 days and see what happens down here. 25 days, adjust the numbers down here. So you can really experiment with this, guys. So it's up to you. And you can toggle on chart alerts or not. It's up to you if you want to turn those on or not. And you'll see those over here. That's a little chart alert there. Okay. So this is a SPY strategy, guys. This is for SPY specifically. And, of course, you want to have your stop losses in place, because this is not going to be perfect. It's 71% accurate with these settings. Adjust the settings back down to 10, and that's where it's optimized at 76%. It may work on other indicators, say Apple. It may work on other indicators like Apple here, but it does not mean it's optimized for Apple. You can see 14 trades. Yes, it was a good setup here, 71% accurate. So it's still accurate, right? As long as we're above 60%, I look at it as a good strategy. But you can always implement other parts to the strategy as well. All right, moving on to our final indicator. That's going to be our volume hunter, red flag spotter, and bullish vertical trend. All right. What this is doing, and let's go back to Sing. And we'll go to the 1 minute time frame, and hopefully you guys aren't falling asleep on me. I know that this is a long video, but I appreciate your time. And we're covering everything here, so I think this is going to be a great video for all of our traders. All right, so CING. What you're seeing is that the candles are not changing colors yet. Again, layerment issue. Go to here, click on this, visual order, bring to front. There you go. So if you ever see that it's not changing the color of the candles, then you're going to see that's exactly why. All right, now, very simplistic indicator here. We're changing the color of the candles based on the volume. So if we see that the volume is increased, we're going to have white candles. If we see that we have moderate volume, it's going to be yellow candles. And if we have low volume, you're going to see the red and green candles as we see in this area here, right? So this means this consolidation, low volume. Okay. White candle, high volume, that's a volume spike. White candle, high volume at the top of this move. and pulled back. These pink candles that you're seeing, these magenta candles, that's going to be a major red candle. Whenever I have the major red checkbox down there showing us how many major reds we have, you can very easily see here on this chart, we have multiple major reds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right there in this area. That means we have multiple major red candles. That means if I'm going into my position, I have to make an adjustment because we have multiple major red candles already being shown, right? So we want to be very, very careful of that. So whenever we see this, that's an adjustment I need to make to my size, so it's easily spotting that. Yellow candles in the pre-market session, I want to see a minimum of a yellow candle closing over my key level before I get into my position. If I'm trading with red and green candles, that means I'm trading with very, very low volume, and that is a high risk. So very self-explanatory here. The yellow candles are moderate volume. White candles are breakout high volume. During the regular market hours from 9:30 to 4 p.m., I want to see high volume candles. That's going to be our white candles. During the pre-market session, I want to see at least the yellow candles, if not white candles as well. BVT is a bullish vertical trend. This is a condition that we look for. If we see a bullish vertical trend, we typically look for a breather or red candle to follow. We can see bullish vertical trend, bullish vertical trend. Has a quick note here, hover over, you'll see what is a bullish vertical trend. This is a red flag to our strategy. This means we're expecting some breather or a pullback. So we want to expect that. That means we're expecting it to pull back. It's extended. Bullish vertical trend right here, we can see, okay, we're pulling back. All right, great. Bullish vertical trend, pull back. Okay, great. So this can offer your dip entry if you're looking for a possible setup. So CING can see during the regular market hours, okay, we're getting white volume, a lot of volume there. That's great. We do have major reds previous to this. We can easily see that without having to look back and hover over and say, okay, this was a large red. This was a large. You don't have to do that. You can easily say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. We see a bunch of these pink candles, major reds. That is a concern. I want to be careful of that, right? All right, now we're seeing the volume pick up. We've got the white volume, white candles, right? It's picking up. And if you want to adjust this, say so for Tesla or something like that, you can adjust that. So maybe you have volume settings that you want to change. You can do that. Double click on the indicator, change the volume requirements here, 30,000, 100,000. You can change it to whatever you prefer. And you can change the Bullish Pivot Pro color and signals as well. So hit OK here. We'll go back to CING. And I think that's pretty much it, guys. Go through each one of these indicators. They're all in our toolkit here. Each one is going to have on the side if you click on this, go to invite only. Look at the side here. You can see the read more notes section on each one of these. That's going to be really helpful for determining what each one of these indicators does or does not do. And it's going to be really great. And guys, I think we've covered a lot in this video. I do apologize of the length of this video, how long it's been, but I think we've covered pretty much everything that we have to offer in the toolkit. It's very, very simple, and we will be adding more to this, but we want to make sure that everyone is on the same page of what's going on here. So I think that's it for today's video, guys. That's our volume indicator here. These are all of our indicators. I do appreciate your time today. I'm going to wrap this up. I hope everyone has a great rest of your weekend. If you're not able to attend for the full session here, we will be sending this out to your email, so be checking your email as well. This will be a recorded session. And hopefully everything recorded fine and we can get this out. But guys, I do appreciate your time. I hope this was helpful. If you found this video helpful or you found this helpful, let me know in chat. We do have our community feedback as well. I'm not going to be able to answer as many questions individually, guys. I'm getting a lot of individual questions. I want to be able to answer everybody collectively, so I'm going to be working on that. And if you are not getting your question answered, then please sign up for the private lessons. I'll spend time with you one-on-one. Otherwise, I do need to focus on the group as a whole and make sure everyone is on the same page. But guys, I really, really appreciate your time. I hope everyone learned something from this. I hope everyone has a better understanding of our indicators, our strategies, and how they're implemented, how they're used. And that's pretty much it. But guys, thank you. I'll see you on Monday. Thanks, guys.